Commissioners, you're okay. We'll go ahead and get in and let Commissioner Denenberg join us when she's able to get back to her home or gets back on the laptop. I don't think it'll be too much longer for her. She was at the meeting earlier, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We'll call the regular agenda of the Anderson County Board of Commissioners to order Monday, September 21st, 2020. I'll lead us in the prayer, and then we'll have Commissioner Meade lead us in the pledge. If you'll bow your head, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening in sincere appreciation for the opportunity to serve. We ask for your direction and guidance as always, Lord, that we do the things for this community, this great county, and this great state, and our great nation, Lord, that are pleasing to the people we represent, but also pleasing to you, Lord. We ask for your hand over this COVID, and we ask that you help provide the knowledge and the cure for this as we move forward in life. And we ask for you to put your hand on those that have lost loved ones, Lord, and just comfort them and let them know that their loved ones are safe with you. And Lord, we ask all these things in Jesus' name, amen. Go ahead, Steve. Steve, I think you're muted.
Yeah, somebody muted me. Please stand, face the flag in your room, or face the flag that I have displayed on the screen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Before we get started, this past week, we had a strong pillar in our community, not only in his neighborhood, but for our whole district. And he also was a strong supporter and worker for the Green McAdoo Center that passed away this past Friday and was laid to rest on this past weekend. And I'd like to maybe ask that we take a moment of silence to honor him and to pray for his family, during this time. And that was Eugene Gallagher.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Fritz, I appreciate you bringing that up. And yes, Eugene Gallagher and his family. Let's take a moment of silence in his remembrance. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Fritz, for bringing that up. I appreciate that, and I know the Gallagher family appreciate it as well. Next, we're going to move into appearance of citizens. Are there any citizens online or on a phone call or in the courtroom that has anything that they'd like to talk about, discuss, that's not on the agenda? If so, please join us now, state your name, your address, and you would have 3 minutes to discuss. I'll open up the floor now to any of those individuals. Okay, don't hear any, and Vice Chairman Anderson, you don't see any in there as well?
No.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your eyes and ears there. We'll move on then to approval and correction of agendas. We'll start with the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. I think we're going to have to do everything in our iPad there. Brian, if you could get us to that. I think he's working on it now to get us the vote tablet. Okay, we have a motion, Commissioner Mead, it's your motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Yeah, right now, my roll call thing is just showing that I'm logged in and I'm connected, but I don't have the normal display on my screen.
You know, I'm the same way.
We all are.
All of us are.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's not the way we're supposed to be starting this thing. Brian, are you,
I show the board.
I show that there's a motion and a right to speak on mine.
really?
It just flashed on.
Are you on your iPad though?
No, I've got my roll call pad.
Well, I just saw a motion by Denenberg and seconded by Yeager, question by Denenberg, but my iPad voting tablet is not checking in.
I'm removing my right to speak, just showing that it's working here.
Okay,
That's what I was doing as well.
I'm reconnecting now. Are any of you reconnecting, Yeager? Yes, you are.
Everyone here on site is all right.
It's all of us off-site that, well, Teresa's okay though. Is she on site?
Denenberg and Creasy, we're off site.
iPad is amend and right to speak, but
And that's what it should be, Bob.
Mine says log in, and then if I hit it, it says this user is already logged in, and it shows me as present on the screen, but I don't, that's all I have is the normal stuff on the top of the page, and then it says log in, and it says settings, but I don't need to go to settings. I'm going to close and come back in on that.
I tried it and it still didn't let me in. Brian, what do you think? You should power on, power off, or what?
Just leave the meeting and then come right back in again.
The go to meeting? Is that what you're saying, or?
Voting tab, just exit the app and then come right back in again. I show you online is what's odd.
It says it's authenticating. I think we probably got. So you want me to go out of Zoom and come back in is what you're saying, or go to meeting?
Out of the voting tablet, come out of the voting tablet program, out of the roll call app, and then go right back in.
Yeah, I've done that 3 times now. This is my 4th. Logging in. Does it show me there? It says discussion on mine. Okay, let's go to vote. Maybe you got to hit vote. On your side, Brian.
Hello, Commissioner Wandell.
Yes.
Richie, no.
Hey, Richie, how are you, buddy?
Do you guys need me to come back later? It seems you're having trouble and I'm losing battery power.
What were you here for? What was you here for?
To be sworn in?
Sworn in?
Constable.
Richie, no? Constable? Are we sure?
No,
about
he's
that?
on the nomination committee.
Mr. No's here for the Civil Service Board.
Yeah.
It'll be a few more minutes, Richie. We're trying to get set up to get started and get the agendas approved. You know, you might want to come back in 10 minutes, or somebody can text you or something and let you know. It'll be,
I'll send them back. Sorry to interrupt.
no, you're fine, buddy. I appreciate you saying something.
Okay, Meade, can you try again now and see if you?
Yeah, I think mine's working now because I got the second and request to speak. I'll just do a request to speak and then delete it.
Brian, I think if you just hit, let's vote, because we're trying.
There we go.
I think we're just trying to pass the consent agenda. There we go. Everybody good? Everybody's voting pad show up now to vote?
Yes.
Okay. And we're just going to have to get that motion. Was Commissioner Meade. I'm going to give it to Commissioner White as the second. So Commissioner Meade made the motion to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Commissioner White. Any other discussion on the consent agenda before I make it final here on the vote? Yes is to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner White. Did not vote. Motion passes 15-0. I'd say Commissioner White's is updating. No problem with that. He is present, as we all know. So motion passes for consent agenda. Next is the regular agenda. We have a motion to approve the regular agenda as approved. We've got a motion by Commissioner Yeager to approve as presented, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Fritz.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on approving the agenda as presented in our packet? Let's go to the board and vote. Yes is to approve as presented. Motion passes 16-0, unanimous. Thank you all. Thank you, Brian, for your help here. Next is going to be the public hearing report by Vice Chairman Josh Anderson. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 6:15, we had a public hearing for the rezoning of 3240 and 3240 Clinton Highway, Clinton, from A2 to C1. And had a couple people comment, and Danny stepped out, but I believe, Danny, are you there? No, he was going to rejoin the meeting from GoToMeeting. If anyone has any other questions, but this was.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So if anyone has any questions for Danny, but there was a recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve this rezoning, and so we need a motion to either approve or reject.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We have a motion by Commissioner Meade to approve, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge, to rezone the property discussed from, I believe it's A2 to C1. Any discussion on that motion before we take it to vote? Yes, is Commissioner Scott.
Commissioner Wandel and Fritz, you both have said that you've received feedback from people in the area. Is it negative comments or positive?
I'll let Chuck go first.
It's basically a split between certain ones. I mean, people that are abiding by the rules and everything, they don't have no comments on. You see certain improvements, as Mr. Phillips says, where they made drastic improvements in that area. The negative comments are the ones that are not abiding by the rules and what they were zoned for. And that are the negative comments I'm getting. And so that's the issues.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree with Commissioner Fritz, what he says. Obviously, I hear about the same, and I'm looking forward to working with, the zoning office and continue the effort to clean up Clinton Highway. We need to put another effort into that, I think, and do a much better job keeping the curb appeal much better, I think, than we do at some of these locations. And again, as Commissioner Fritz said, it's not everyone, it's just certain ones, and but we'll get there. And this is for a C1 rezoning, and any other questions or discussions? Okay, let's go to the board. Yes is to rezone from A2 to C1, I believe it is. No is to not. Motion passes 14 yes, 2 no's. Motion carries. Anything else, Vice Chairman Anderson?
Thank you. This concludes the public hearing report.
Thank you, sir. Everybody is online. I see Commissioner Denenberg is back online. Thank you for your quick timing and being back. We have everybody present.
What do you mean? I've been back.
Yeah, I know. You're waiting on us.
That pretty much, and I was glad I did not see any of Russell's boys out today.
Next, we're going to do the elections for chairman, vice chairman, and I believe constables on the that item as well. Before I turn it over and open the floor up, I just want to thank each of you for all you've done over the last 2 years. I just can't thank you enough. And as the old saying goes, you're only as good as the people around you. And I feel as if everyone around me was better than I ever could be. And I just sincerely thank everyone from the back. I'll call it Kim and Annette and Jeff Cole's office and Brian and his group, and all the commissioners, of course, Mayor Frank, all the department heads. I just can't thank you enough. It was a learning experience for me, something I learned from, and look forward to getting back into my regular seat. I have no heartburn with nobody. It's not, I don't want to do this because I'm mad at somebody. I just feel like it's time for some new blood to be in the seat, and it'll make our commission stronger, and we move forward. And just ask all of you to please recognize that moving into chairmanship is hard enough in itself, but trying to run it through a virtual is even tougher. So please be patient. Whoever is elected as chairman, please give them the time and the courtesy to get their legs under them. And let's try to be as courteous as we can on the front end. Whoever is nominated, I'm sure will do a great job, and I look forward to working with them, and I'm here to help in any way I can. So enough of that mumbo jumbo. Let's, I'm going to open the floor up for nomination of chairman for the Anderson County Commission. The floor is open for nominations. Oh, sorry, I need to look at the board. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you very much to you, Mr. Chairman. You've been an outstanding chairman for us. You really have. You've been very fair. You've had your moments of having to be stern. You're very kind-hearted, and you do the right things for our county. And I want to say thank you very much for all that you have done for the county and for the commissioners. And with that being said, one of the reasons why I'm suggesting that we put this person as our next chairman in place is because he attends all of the conferences and takes time to go to the classes and learn about things that affect us directly and how to better our county. He's on many of the boards and committees to be involved in the county. And he's not shy to stand as a justice of the peace and perform a wedding ceremony, even at a short moment's notice. I would like to nominate Commissioner Josh Anderson as chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. We have a nomination for Commissioner Josh Anderson. Do we have a second to that motion? I'll come to you, Commissioner Denenberg.
Steve Mead, I second the motion for Josh Anderson.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Scott for Josh Anderson, seconded by Steve Mead.
Well, I would have been glad to have seconded the motion, but my screen wouldn't allow it.
Well, it was my fault. I apologize. Hey, I'm sure Commissioner Mead will allow you to be the second.
That's okay. But I do have something I want to say.
Okay.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you, Tracy, for your level leadership and your fairness. And in supporting Commissioner Mead's second of Josh Anderson, I just hope that he will follow what he has been learning from you and from others with the wisdom and foresight. And with that, I will close my mic. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Denberg. Appreciate those comments, and that's what the beauty of this is you have a lot of leaders around you, and I was able to watch and learn from Fritz and McCamey and Alderson, and, even Emmert and Isabel and many others, and you learn a little bit along the way. You try to do the best you can. That's where it gets us all together, I think. So I see no other nominations. Do I hear Commissioner McCamey?
Took me just a minute there to get unmuted. The nomination has been made, and at this point, I would like to make a motion that the nomination cease and that Josh Anderson be elected by acclamation.
I'll second.
I'd second.
A motion and a second by acclamation.
I believe we have to do a roll call for all votes when we're doing this online.
That's correct. So this will, I believe, Commissioner McCamey, override the original motion, which is confirming it, basically. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion to elect Commissioner Josh Anderson as chairman of the Anderson County Commission. Do we have a second? Any other discussion on that? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion is unanimous. Thank you, commissioners. Congratulations, Commissioner Anderson. I hope that Annette has brought up the gavel, or if you have one. I wish I was there to shake your hand. I'll be there soon enough, and I'm confident in your leadership and your abilities. And as I said, lean on me or any of the commissioners at any time. We're here to help, and look forward to you taking the reins of the Anderson County Commission moving forward. I'm going to give you a few minutes to say a few words, and then commissioners, we need to take a 5-minute break. I believe Brian will need to reconfigure to make Commissioner Anderson the chairman, and that way he can work the voting tablets from his seat instead of mine. And Commissioner Anderson, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Wandell, and I have learned a lot from you, and they certainly got big shoes to fill, and I've learned something from everyone here on commission. It's been a great 2 years so far, and look forward to working with everyone, working with mayor and all the department heads to keep the county moving forward. This has been really, really exceptional times with the virtual meetings and everything, and I feel like all things considered, Anderson County's done pretty well in the last 6 months, struggling with that. Thank you for your leadership and service on the commission, and hope I can make everyone here proud.
I have no doubt you'll make us proud. You already have, and so is all the other commissioners. You'll do a great job. I'm confident in it. Commissioner Isabel, and then we'll go to break if nobody else has got any comments to allow Brian to do his thing. Commissioner Isabel.
Chairman, I'd like to take this opportunity to nominate for vice chairman Shane Val.
I'll second that as well.
I think we let the chairman do that, and maybe I'm wrong, and if it's not out of order, I don't have a problem doing it now. Does anybody know if there's a process in that regard, or I thought the chairman takes it, then the chairman takes over the vice chair, and then he goes for the parliamentarian and such?
Mr. Chairman, this is Jay. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
We elect the vice chair, and then the chair appoints the parliamentarian. I think that may be the issue you're thinking about. But
Okay.
we'll go ahead and elect that vice chair. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure we do it correctly. Commissioner Isabel made the motion to elect Shane Val vice chair, and who was the seconder? Commissioner Isabel, can you press your
Your
button again?
favorite, your favorite other commissioner.
Commissioner Denenberg. All right. Push your motion button there. Thank you. And Commissioner Denenberg. Commissioner Scott beat you. Man, you're just getting swamped there. All right. So I got a motion and a second to elect Commissioner Shane Val as vice chair. Any other nominations for vice chair?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to nomination cease and that we proceed to the board for vote.
And do we have a second to Commissioner McCamey's motion for acclamation?
Second from Yeager.
Commissioner Yeager, okay. Any other discussion on that? Seeing nothing on the board, let's go to the board and vote. This is to approve Mr. Shane Elvis Val as vice chair. I figured I'd throw that Elvis in there to make it unanimous.
Next, he's going to say, thank you very much.
All right. All right, 16-0. Congratulations, Commissioner Val. You are now the vice chairman, and you get to sit next to Mr. Anderson there, and you guys can beat up on each other anytime you need.
Thank you.
Shane, do you have anything you'd like to say before we go to break?
Everybody, and I'm sure that Josh and I work very well together. I have an elbow that I can use if we need to keep him on track. He never claimed to have to do that with you, Commissioner Wandale, but I'll keep an eye on him for you.
Thank you, and congratulations. You'll do an excellent job. Both of you will. All right, so let's take a 5. Brian, you still need a break. Is that correct? Or am I?
Yes, I just need a couple of minutes.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back. Brian, you let us know when you're ready, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Tracy, it's set.
There. Well, yeah. Oh, is it off? Brian's ready, or do any commissioners need another minute? Okay, yeah, we've got a couple out here. We'll wait one more minute.
Ready when you are, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, we're still waiting on Commissioner White and Commissioner Jameson, but figured we'd go ahead and move along and let them catch up. Commissioner Yeager has indicated that he's not interested in being parliamentarian anymore. We'll miss him, but with that being said, I'd like to ask Commissioner McCamey, are you still on?
Yes, sir.
Would you be interested in serving as parliamentarian?
I'll be glad to fill that position.
Appreciate that and appreciate experience you have on commission. So I think Commissioner Val and I could both benefit from more experienced commissioners, parliamentarians. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that was a good choice you made. Robert would be a good parliamentarian. He's got lots of experience.
Thank you, Commissioner Creasy. It looks like we've got one more election for Constable District 1 to fill the vacancy left by Mr. Faust. Motion by Commissioner Dennenberg to, what is your motion, Commissioner Dennenberg?
Well, frankly, I thought we needed a motion for Commissioner McCamey. If not, then I would like to remove my motion from the board.
No, I think, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's just an appointment that I make, correct?
Yes, sir. You're correct.
Thank you.
That's an appointment made by the chair.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion for Constable? Oh, Commissioner Fritz.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wandell and myself have both been notified that the present constable, Mr. Faust, was in the hospital and was ill and at this particular time and was unable to apply at that, and he still wants to be considered as constable at this time. So he wants to be placed in as an applicant along with the for consideration tonight.
Motion by Commissioner Wandell. What's your motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to nominate and retain Constable Jennings Faust for District 1.
Motion and a second. Discussion, Commissioner Mead.
Yeah, the question I have is, if he hasn't actually, did he actually submit an application like the other man here did? It seems that we've got somebody that is lawfully and correctly submitted his resume and application, and perhaps the other person has not. Now, I wouldn't have any problem delaying the process, but I have great difficulty with somebody being the only one to show up and turn things in, and then completely ignoring their submission.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jay. Can I speak on this issue?
Go ahead, Jay.
You can take nominees from the floor on these vacancies.
Or any commissioner, right, Jay?
You're correct, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So at this point, we have one nomination, and that is for Jennings Faust.
So we would still need a nomination, even though Mr. Williams has applied, we'd still need someone to nominate him. Is that correct?
No, sir, not necessarily. Just because he applied, he has to have somebody to either nominate him from the floor or a commissioner to nominate him.
Can I ask, has Mr. Faust expressed an interest in continuing to serve?
Mr. Faust has contacted both Commissioner Wandell and myself expressing that desire.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to add to Commissioner Smallridge that I'm pretty confident that this 2-year term would probably be the end, perhaps, for Mr. Faust. And I did note in Mr. Williams' application there that he was intending to run in 2022 anyway. But I'm confident in Mr. Faust's ability to finish out his term. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion or nomination?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Jerry Creasy.
Yes.
And both Commissioner Fritz and Commissioner Wandell both are recommending Mr. Faust remain constable. Both
Yes.
commissioners for that district are in favor of Mr. Faust.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I've known Mr. Faust for many years, and he comes from a long family of constables and represented that area for many years. And I would certainly agree with Commissioner Fritz and Commissioner Waddell.
Thank you, Commissioner Creasy.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
with no other nominations, I make a motion that nominations cease and we proceed to the board for a vote.
Okay. And we need a roll call vote for that. So I guess let's go to the board and vote. And this yes is to retain Mr. Faust.
And I just started getting a spinning wheel saying, well, here it goes, that it was reconnecting. There it goes. Sorry.
Motion passes unanimously. Next committee reports, purchasing report by Catherine Ashmery. Catherine, you still there?
I am. I hope you can still hear me. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. We have 3 grants that have been approved by the law director, submitting for your approval, either individually or as a group.
I have a motion by Commissioner Yeager to approve as a group, seconded by Commissioner Mead. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any discussion? Not, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Under other business, we have a request to transfer a copier lease from the county clerk to the dental clinic, submitting for your approval.
Motion by Commissioner Fritz,
Yes.
seconded by Commissioner Yeager. Any discussion? All right, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next item under other business is a request to surplus capital assets, and we have 6 vehicles being requested by departments to be surplused and sold on gov deals, submitting for your approval either individually or as a group.
Motion by Commissioner Yeager as a group,
Yes.
seconded by Commissioner Jamison. Any discussion? Commissioner Mead.
Yeah, I noticed on a couple of those, the description of the vehicle was really vague, like, vehicle. It seems like I feel happier to have a little bit more of a description, but not enough to make it be changed right now.
On the agenda part, I'm not sure about which part you're looking at, but we do have the make and model and year in the description.
Okay, I just don't have that page in front of me right now. Thank you.
I'd be glad to read them off if you'd like.
No, that's fine. I read them before and didn't have any problem with them. I also looked at who had made the requests. And that means quite a bit to me. If the right people did the request, then you looked at it and it was okay.
Yes, sir. And just so everybody else knows, in case they don't have it in front of them, the newest vehicle is 11 years old and the oldest one is 21 years old. They're well used.
Can I ask how are the prices determined?
The starting bid is determined by the department. We ask them.
Do they get bids or do they just get estimates or how is that done?
They are auctioned off on Gov Deals.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wandale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to Catherine's point, on Gov Deals, anyone, Catherine, can bid on these. Any citizen in our county, if they want to put a bid in on, I think there's a Suburban, had a little transmission slip. There were some other vehicles. I think there was a van. They range from 500 to 1,000 starting bids. So anybody interested in that, they can contact Catherine Ashmary in purchasing or to go to Gov Deals. Catherine, is that right?
That is correct. And we actually have some people from all over the country buy our items. Well, more in the region because we don't ship them. But yeah, we often get folks from Georgia and Kentucky.
I was going to bid on
Is there a link on our website? Just curious.
I mean, it's just govdeals.com. I don't know if we have a direct link, but I'll definitely make sure that we do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I was going to bid on some of these, but they're too late model for me.
They're newer than half our cars.
Any other discussion? All right, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And that's all the action items on the purchasing committee report.
Thank you, Catherine.
Have a nice night.
Next, we have the finance report. Robbie Holbrook.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. On the finance agenda, really the only discussion or the item we need to discuss in commission is the fund balance policy. The mayor put on the agenda and a recommendation to increase fund balance policy to 5.5 million. We just increased it in January to 4.5 million, up from 4 million, but it passed with the recommendation. The motion was made with the recommendation to increase the fund balance policy minimum general fund unassigned fund balance from 4.5 million to 5.5 million, to refer to Anderson County Board of Commissioners for the recommendation for approval. Voting no was Phil Yeager. I've since learned that really finance sets this policy and we don't have to have this approved by commission, although the finance committee seemed to want commission's approval. So we did vote on the last one when in 4.5 million. So really, it would probably be a good idea to vote on this one, in my opinion.
Yes. This would require a 2/3 vote on commission to spend below that balance. Is that correct?
Yes, if it gets below 5.5 million. And right now, currently unaudited, our fund balance sets at 8.7 million, $8,700,396. So, and the best, just a couple of things. GF practice states that a minimum fund balance should be no less than 2 months of regular general fund operating revenues or expenditures. This fund balance, if 5.5 million would put us about 2.4 months of operating expenses. So it gives us a little more than 2 months, but that is the no less than 2 months. That's probably the lowest possible recommendation, the 2 months. They really wish you would have more. So we are getting that. It's good for us to get this up there as much as we can.
Thank you. I've got a motion by Commissioner Isbell to approve that, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Discussion, Commissioner Yeager.
Mr. Chairman, the Budget Committee, who is up next, had a motion to designate 2 million for capital projects. So that 8.7 will, it was 8.7, right, Robbie?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that'll immediately take us down to 6.7 if that passes. So we're kind of not starting at 8.7 because I imagine that will go through. So
that is correct.
I'm in favor of raising this a bit, but we were having a big time problem maintaining our 4.5. So this is too big of a jump for me. I'd be willing to be a 5, but going up $1 million seems a little extreme for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Meade.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind that this doesn't keep us from doing any spending that is really critical, because with a 2/3 vote, we can still do whatever needs to be done. The 5.5 is kind of a big jump, but it also appears that it's very close to what is expected by the state for us. Maybe 5.3 would be enough. But I think if we go 5.5, anything we really need to do, we can still do with a 2/3 vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Meade. Any other discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes 11-5.
All right, thank you. That's really all I have from the Finance Committee. Usually it's on the consent agenda. We put this on the regular agenda today just to, for that purpose of that one item. So I can move on to the budget agenda if you're ready. Chairman Anderson, sorry.
That's fine.
All right, first thing I have in the budget agenda is the cash and fund balance report. As stated earlier, the unassigned fund balance is at 8.7 million. Total fund balance is 12.1 million and total cash is 10.7 million for general fund. Is there any questions about the cash and fund balance report? I will say cash is up from last year. And normally these next few months is when cash gets a little lower because we don't start collecting taxes again till February, but we're at 10.7 million. But one of the reasons too is we did receive the grant from the state of Tennessee for the state appropriation grant. It was 1.3 million. So that's one of the reasons cash is, it would be the same as last year if not for that. So that's one of the reasons it's higher.
Commissioner Scott.
Thank you very much. Robbie, where do we stand with sales tax revenue?
That's actually what I want to discuss next. I'll go ahead and report on that if you like. July, which total Anderson County was 3,452,165, 19% up from last July. For our portion of Anderson County, it was 408,899. That was a 58% increase from last July. We did receive August Friday. Anderson County was at 411,366, which was up 17% from last August. And the total county was 3,558,695, which was 9% up. So we're still seeing increases in sales tax.
Chairman. Robbie, I'm looking at the cash and fund balance report, and I'm just curious. I realize this is cash and fund balance, but where's the sheriff's fund in here?
Sheriff's fund's included in general fund. It's a 101 fund, so that all sheriff budget is in general fund.
Is there anything else in that general fund?
Every fund except the ones, every department in the general fund, sheriff, EMS is not in there. They're 118, obviously. Like finance is in general fund, the mayor, county commission, county attorney, HR. Every department's in general fund except the schools and solid waste, obviously. Just the ones listed on the cash and fund balance, but most departments are general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner McCamey?
Robbie, can you tell us, you gave us the totals for the county. What about for Oak Ridge? Are their sales tax up or down or?
Well, in July, they were up 310,281, and in August, they were up 172,634. And I did a comparison. January through August of 2019, Oak Ridge collected $14,833,199, and in 2020, January through August, they collected $16,890,305. They're up $2 million from last calendar year, $2,057,106. So there's most everyone is seeing increases in sales tax. Not like Anderson County has, because we're collecting internet sales tax now. The cities aren't seeing as much growth as we are, but they are seeing some growth.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Smallridge?
Yeah, I was wondering how much of the increase is due to a general increase in sales tax versus the change in where it's recorded, you know, the point of sale. That seems to be a big factor. Can you comment on that?
I mean, in my opinion, I think most of it would be because of the internet sales tax, the change of where it's collected. That started showing up, you know, December and November of this past year. But I mean, I think that that's definitely the biggest factor in my opinion. I mean, they warned us. I mean, we were told to be so conservative with sales tax because of COVID-19, and we were in our budget. But I mean, I don't think we're being affected at all. And I read a thing from the state that most counties aren't being affected by sales tax collections. I mean, I think if you rely on sales tax a lot, and we don't in Anderson County, we rely on property tax more. But our sales tax is continuing to grow, though.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Scott?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that in the city of Oak Ridge, keep in mind, not only do we have a lot of people that are coming and going, especially during this COVID ordeal, but they are shopping at the stores, in the grocery stores. I mean, we still have some places that it's difficult to get Lysol and toilet paper. And on top of that, you've had anywhere from 3 to the past 6 months where the automobile dealers have been giving great incentives for people to come in and get vehicles. I know that we have been at the credit union, and we've seen the automobiles, the loans for them increase greatly. So that's going to be a big chunk of the sales tax as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Any other questions about cash and fund or sales tax? Okay, I'll move into the budget amendments. In section Group 2, appropriations from the school department. Numbers 5 through 9, looking for approval as a group or individually.
Motion by Commissioner Fritz to approve as a group.
Approve as a group.
Seconded by Commissioner Meredith. Any discussion? Go to the board and vote.
Mr. Chairman, is this group 1?
It's Group 2. Sorry, I'm not Mr. Chairman.
Motion passes unanimous.
Okay, there are no transfers in group 3, so moving to group 4, it's appropriations 10 through 30. Seeking approval as a group or individually, or not going to answer any questions about any of them that anybody would have.
Motion by Commissioner Fritz to approve as a group,
Approve as a group.
seconded by Commissioner Meade. Commissioner Scott.
I just wanted to make a comment in general. I was looking at item number 22. It's funds for the archives. I believe it was grant money. Is that correct, Robbie?
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
I think it's
on-
Okay.
I'm sorry?
No, it's a restricted for general government archives. It's at the end of the year, there's a revenue code, collections made in like clerk and master, circuit court, and it rolls into a revenue code, and we take a portion of that and put it in a restricted fund, and this is they're drawing from that reserve.
Okay. I wanted to make a comment. I saw some of the photographs that were attached to the record from archives, and I'm happy to see that we've got someone that's going over some of these things with a fine-tooth comb. I was rather, what's a good word for it, other than shocked, to see that there was a very, very old book that is being held together by what appears to be masking tape. But I just wanted to applaud the preservation department for taking the time to go through and try to bring things back to life and or, keep proper records. It's just a comment in general. But thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Any other discussion? Commissioner Smallridge. May be muted, Commissioner Smallridge.
I'm sorry, what page are we on?
33.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Not, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimous.
Okay, group 5 transfers non-school. There are 2 of them from Police Services and Chancery Court, seeking approval as a group or individually.
Got a motion by Commissioner Fritz to approve as a group.
Approve as a group.
Seconded by Commissioner Waddell. Any discussion? Go to the board. Motion passes unanimous.
All right, in group 6, appropriations that affect general fund unassigned fund balance, there are 2 of them. One from buildings and grounds, and the other is from finance. It's the $2 million that Commissioner Yeager spoke about earlier, that Commissioner Val made a motion in Budget Committee since our fund balance was $8.7 million to assign $2 million in a restricted fund to protect it, to spend on bigger capital improvement projects. And it was voted for unanimously in Budget Committee. So those are the 2. And the other one, the $35,000 for buildings and grounds, is Roger had to buy a lot of supplies for COVID, and he spent most of his budget on that. So we are replacing that 35,000, but we're also seeking reimbursement from a COVID grant for that money also. So.
Thank you. Got a motion, Commissioner Waddell, what's your motion? Okay. Motion to approve number 31. Okay, is that seconded by Commissioner Val?
I was gonna take it for as a group. We'll need another second on that one.
Okay. Got a motion, still need a second. Second by Commissioner Isbell. Commissioner McCamey.
Yeah, on the 2 million that was set aside for capital, was there a list of projects submitted, or why did we just pick a $2 million?
Well, maybe Commissioner Val would want to explain his motion. He made the motion, so it wasn't a particular project. It just for a particular a possible future project, just so we could start putting some money aside for that instead of borrowing money every time we had a capital need, or, since our fund balance was in such a good position.
Mr. Chairman, my motion was to approve 31 and then have discussion on 32.
Okay. Commissioner Val.
On Commissioner McCamey's request after we vote on 31.
Okay. Okay, so we've got a motion and we still need
to take off
we've got a
Val's
second.
second.
Second was by Commissioner Isbell, right? Any discussion on the motion to vote on 31 only? Commissioner Fritz.
I don't know whether you need to speak into the microphones or what, but I'm not hearing a lot that's being said.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Waddell to approve 31 only, seconded by Commissioner Isbell. Commissioner Smallridge?
Yes, can you can you summarize again what we're voting on this current motion?
This is just item 31 only.
And 31, summarize that, please.
I can do that. Yes, so 31 is an appropriation from buildings and grounds. They spent 35,000. Most of his budget for supplies was spent on COVID-19 products, and he's asking for that to be reimbursed, to be replaced, so he can order other supplies throughout the year. And we're seeking reimbursement from a COVID grant for that 35,000.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Not, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Commissioner, Chairman Anderson, do you want me to read number 32 again, explain it?
Yeah.
It's to decrease unassigned fund balance $2 million and increasing assigned for capital projects $2,101,347.85. Commissioner Val made a motion to assign funds from unassigned fund balance for capital improvement projects. And I'm sure Commissioner Val can explain his motion more if he would like to.
Go ahead, Commissioner Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To answer Commissioner McCamey's question, I'm sure he'll recall a few years ago when we were doing renovations, major renovations in some buildings, it was a pretty substantial cost. In view of the future, if we have to do anything like that again, it'd be nice to start, instead of taking a loan, actually have a start with funds in the bank to do that. That was the purpose of the motion, especially considering how well we seem to be doing at this point. So that's the explanation for that, instead of having to take out notes in the future.
Commissioner Waddell.
Yeah, as for me, if we've got $2 million just laying around that we're just willing to throw back into a savings, I'd rather take that $2 million and pay off some of the loans that we have incurred already this year. We've incurred a lot of money. We put a lot of debt on the county this year. And if we've got some money to make that right and pay some of that off, I'd rather do that with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mead.
Yeah, I think what the intent on this is I seem to recall seeing a long list of capital projects that we didn't have the money for. We were trying to figure out which ones would take the most priority. I think that's what we're targeting. We're not targeting to just go ahead and spend it to pay off some stuff. That's certainly one route you could take, but then have to re-borrow money later. And I think that actually costs you more money than keeping some cash on hand for a few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McCamey.
Yeah, I've got follow up on that. Does this become a restricted code where that it can only be spent for capital projects, or does it actually show in our fund balance?
It will show as an assigned. It's more of an assigned, which is the lowest restriction that we have with our restricted funds. It can be moved back to unassigned if commission sees fit. It could also, it takes a vote by commission and approval from budget committee and commission to move the money out of assigned. So it has some restrictions, but it's the lowest restriction possible. So it's just, it takes a motion from county commission to make a change from it being an unassigned fund balance.
And that would just be a simple majority vote, not a 2/3, to transfer it back into general fund should we need it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Isabel.
Chairman, my initial reaction would be to give the money back to the taxpayers. And that probably will come up in budget cycle again. But I would have to agree with Commissioner Waddell, is we would be given, if we do pay off interest, we would be giving money back to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smallridge.
This money would come from fund balance, correct?
That's correct.
We could still do that at any time. Why are we designating it ahead of time and we don't even know what projects we're talking about that might come up? I agree we need to look at that, but we've still got the flexibility leaving that money in the fund balance. I just don't see the advantage of this.
Well, I think sometimes when there's a restriction on the funds that it's a little harder to spend than sitting in unassigned fund balance, but you're correct also. I mean, when you sit there and see 8.7 million in your unassigned fund balance, there's sometimes a lot of hands ready to spend it.
Thank you, Commissioner Smallridge. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I have to side with Commissioner Waddell as well. Back when I was on budget, I mean, I'm looking for ways to cut spending and cut the fat so that we can try and save a little bit of money and reappropriate some of those funds and get it back to these taxpayers that have had to pay through the nose and then some. Only for last year for our tax rate to not come down. There's a lot of phone calls and messages that I got from my constituents because they were upset about, why didn't it come down and our tax appraisal values went up? So I'm going to side with Commissioner Waddell. I'm going to vote against taking that chunk and just setting it off to the side. I think he's right in this, thought of at least paying some thing down, if not several items, paying them down. Thank you.
Commissioner Waddell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel like I understand the intent for Commissioner Val, and I too would like to see it assigned to something specific. I think it's safe where it is. I think we have been pretty good stewards of the funds we have, and we don't just spend frivolously. But I guess my question, Mr. Chairman, is I'm looking on the agenda and I see it listed as an item on the main sheet, but I can't find item 32 on the agenda itself. I know Robbie read it, but I'm on, I don't know, page 40 of 180, and I don't see item 32.
It's page 123.
If you look at the very first item on the budget, it actually came in a very odd time. I read the cash and fund balance report in Budget Committee, and then Commissioner Bell made the motion then. So it was a 30-second budget amendment, but it was the very first thing discussed. I mean, I guess I could have called it 0, item 2, but it's on the very first page of the budget minutes, the very first thing that's talked about, right? The very first item,
Okay.
even though it's 32.
I just don't, I just don't think setting the money aside in a code and then I'm just not gonna vote for it at this time, but I understand the need. And I think the money's still in the undesignated fund balance and we can use it as those projects come up. And I'm just still concerned with how revenue's gonna come in, even though it sounds good. I don't know what the future holds. So I don't want to set anything aside that prevents us from bringing it back, even though it said we can bring it back. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robbie, these monies that we have set in different codes, are they in interest-bearing accounts?
Yes, ma'am, they are. They're in the main account. The cash is in the main account. It's an interest-bearing account, yes.
The account that the other money would be then transferred to, would it also be an interest-bearing account?
Yes, ma'am.
In comparison to the interest that it would gain in comparison to the cost of the monies not being deducted from some of our debt, like for buildings, what kind of difference is there? Or do you know offhand?
Could you repeat that question to me again?
Well, I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be more beneficial for the money to be sitting in an interest-bearing account as opposed to paying off $2 million of our indebtedness.
Right. Our indebtedness is a very low interest rate to begin with. Even though we did borrow money this year, it was an extremely low rate. But I mean, we would have to get permission, just like we did when we paid the $300,000 from 205 Main. We have to get permission to pay off any debt early because these companies are missing their interest from when we pay off, you know what I'm trying to say, they're missing interest if we pay off debt early. So they have to give us permission to do that.
Yes, they're missing revenue.
Right.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And Chairman, to also help chime in with what Robbie was saying to Commissioner Denenberg's question, we did meet, a group of us met with Scott Gibson. He came to Finance Committee about a year ago. We had some of these discussions, and then we also sat down on this issue of debt. The first callable, I'll have to go back to my notes, but we did ask about when's the first callable without penalty. And so I think that was, I'm going from memory, and Robbie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was 2023. So one of the things, so if you, for instance, I raised this issue at the Finance Committee as well, in order to stop debt, you have to stop digging the hole. And so part of raising the fund balance policy is basically, you know, that, for instance, if you approve Commissioner Val's, you know, setting aside $2 million for whatever capital projects, you're locking that in, because if you look at the history of Anderson County, for instance, if we have some air units go down, like part of the ESG project is literally funding things that the county has never set money aside for. And so the majority of that is being paid for through energy savings, but nevertheless, there still is some interest there. So when you raise your fund balance policy and get out of using your fund balance for paying those capital expenses, last year, the county made great strides through budget committee in helping the schools fund some of the capital projects. So instead of going out to borrow, you're doing that. And then I think what Commissioner Val's trying to do here is the same thing. You all are setting it aside, so there's no more. I mean, there are notes on the book for $1.2 million that we've paid, where we should have those funds in some kind of fund. If you look, for instance, at the city of Clinton, it's much smaller, obviously, than Anderson County, and they have an $8 million fund balance. And so just putting monies, raising your fund balance policy, just so that, you know, the mindset is getting out of that debt habit, and, you know, you stop digging and then start funding those capital needs. That's just, those are just some ways to make it happen. So we did talk to Scott about that, and he said, you know, this could be your track for paying that debt down. But do we want to pay penalties in order to pay it off? I don't know. Those are things the commission could definitely do. But that's some of the reasoning behind this debt discussion that I even brought up at the finance committee, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Vice Chairman Val, I think that's a great motion. As the others that were on budget committee with us, at least during the budget last year and even the year before, this is something that I talked about, as many as a few others on the committee, about reserving things for capital projects. We struggle every budget year to come up with the needs of our county and capital projects. Again, I don't see what's wrong with earmarking. It gives us a start. It gives the new budget committee a start coming up this year to set that aside. Because, you know, again, as I've said before with our own rules, the projects still come back to this full commission. But starting an earmark and giving our new budget committee a head start come budget time in February and March, I think is an excellent idea. That does not mean we can't come back next month and take $1 million out of it, $500,000 out of it. But, you know, $2 million to me is fine. That still gives us almost $7 million in our fund balance. So I plan to support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Commissioner Meade, do you want to state that motion again for everybody watching at home?
Yeah, I made a motion to fund item 32 and to approve that to go into for capital improvement money set aside.
Okay, thank you. And seconded by Commissioner Val. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Not, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes 10 yes, 6 no.
All right, thank you. And the last thing I have is Group 7 Miscellaneous. It was from Mayor Frank and the Jolly Building Plaza. You have a lot of information. It was just for information purposes only. May want to speak about it. I'm not sure, but there was lots of good information and some really nice photographs in your packet about the possible renovation. So, but it was just.
Yeah, those were just, it was a concept idea, but it's very expensive. We've asked the architect to maybe see if we can do some improvements on that plaza and cut back the cost considerably. So I just was sharing those concept ideas with the budget committee and then also with full commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Fritz. Think you're
Mr.
muted.
Chairman, he's signaling that he's not hearing anything.
Oh, he's not hearing anything. Okay. I think Brian's working on it back there. Commissioner Smallridge?
Yeah. Just some general reactions. I think it's a lot of money, and I know the mayor has mentioned that maybe it would be pared down. Before I'd be comfortable in seriously looking at something like this, I'd like to know the current condition of the various building systems in the Jolly building, structural conditions, the roof, HVAC. And then secondly, any plans for future use of the building in terms of programs or departments, and then how this proposal would stack up against our many other facility needs and priorities that we have. So that's just some of the information as we look at this in the future that I think would be helpful to me in trying to reach a decision.
Thank you, Commissioner Smallridge.
Okay, Chairman Anderson, that's all I have on the budget committee. But before I leave, I just want to thank Commissioner Wandell for his time he served as chairman, because he was always very patient with me, especially when I started as interim director and we went through that budget season that we don't want to talk about that much. But you always was very patient with me, and I really appreciate it, because I know it took a lot of patience. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate all you do.
Yeah, y'all have a good night. Thank you.
You too. Good night. Next up under departments, Election Commission, Chairman Mark Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on your appointment. And I understand that you had requested appearance tonight, I guess, about questions from the Election Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, from this week's, or I guess it's last week's meeting now.
Okay. Basically, the Election Commission voted last Thursday to hold the absentee counting board at the Fair Association building on November the 3rd. From a space standpoint and from an efficiency standpoint, I believe it was really in the best decision. We currently have 1,600 ballot applications, and when it's all said and done, we'll have approximately, in my guesstimation, would be somewhere around 2,500. We'll be seating 4 counting boards, and that's approximately 20 poll officials to help to handle those ballots. I think it really was just really a no-brainer decision to do that. I feel like it was by far the best of the options that we did have. Of course, living in a COVID-19 world, we would love to be able to count them in a normal fashion, but unfortunately, you have to be flexible, and change sometimes is inevitable in the world we live in. We're living in an ever-changing world, and unfortunately, we have to sometimes adapt to be able to succeed. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that decision that was made. And if you all have any questions, I'll be here. Feel free to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Looks like we've got a couple questions. Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stevens, I think you just mentioned a number of people the number of people that you will be expecting to do the physical counting. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's approximately 20 people, I think is a fair statement. There may be more than that. There may be less than that, I would say, but approximately, I think 20 is probably a good start right now.
All right. Where would one obtain a list of the names of the people that would be involved in this endeavor?
I don't believe that would be public record, public knowledge beforehand. I think after the fact it is fine. I don't think beforehand that is something that is necessarily a public record.
Well, it's my understanding that whatever numbers are used are supposed to be an equal amount of one party and the other. How do
That
we
is
know that
correct.
that's the case? And how
That
do
is
we know that's the case?
That is correct. The Election Commission approved the poll worker list at last Thursday's meeting, and there are equal numbers on the absentee counting board.
Well, how do we know that, since in the state of Tennessee, we do not register our party affiliation?
Well, what is correct, you don't register our party. Tennessee's an open primary state. However, they do use voting history to be able to determine that. And I think if you look at a person's voting history, you can pretty much decide what party that they are affiliated with.
I understand that, and that's why I would certainly like the names of the people that are being selected so I could do that. Since I have access to that information.
Again, that is not something I don't believe that is open records information, but I'll be glad to do some more research on that. And if you want to make an open records request, we're glad to take a look at that.
All right, I appreciate that very much. Another question I have, and I'm not going to tie up the meeting with all kinds of questions because I'll send these to you in an email. But the other one I want to ask is, when the ballots were counted the last time off-site, there were no observers allowed. There was no press allowed. Is that going to be the same with November 3rd?
Well, that's not exactly accurate. I mean, if there would have been requests made for poll watchers, they would have been allowed to do that. There is a time frame, and we do follow state law in that regard. And there was no such request at that time.
Well, I don't believe anybody knew until the night before that you were going to be moving the ballot boxes off-site.
That is not accurate. There was public notice put in the newspaper. That is not true.
Oh, come on. That public notice was a joke, and you know it. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think I've had enough.
Commissioner McCamey.
We had discussed closing the courthouse for the August election and did wind up closing it to the public. What is the plan, or what is the recommendation from the Election Commission on the November 3rd?
Commissioner McCamey, that is correct. The courthouse was partially closed on August 6th. The third floor was still being used and still was functioning as business as usual. But as far as with regard to November the 3rd, I think that'll be the decision of this body and what if they want to do. With regard to the Election Commission, we're flexible either way. If you want to leave it open, that's fine. If you want to close it, that's fine as well.
Well, I would think unless you all request that we close it, that it remain open.
And that would be fine with us. That's not the only reason that we had requested was, to be able to use the courthouse. We're not going to be using the courthouse for the count, so that would be perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let me get to, Mr. Stevens can go if he needs to real quick. Let me get to Commissioner Fritz.
In the last election and counting the ballots, what percentage would you say were rejected?
Very few were rejected. The count itself, once the absentee counting board gets the ballots themselves, they've already been approved. So all the signatures have been compared, and with regard to everything as far as that goes, I think we had very few. I would say somewhere in, I couldn't give you the count, but Commissioner Fritz, I'll be able to, if you would like, I will give the accurate count for the August election. I would say under 5% were rejected total.
Okay, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Commissioner Meade.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the motion on the board is, but I'm in favor of having the courthouse open to the public on November 3rd. And all we have to do is rescind the motion we made a week or two ago, or last month, and then do a new motion to have it open on that day. And so Mr. Waddell, is that what your motion is?
Yes, my motion is to keep the courthouse open if we need one. I don't know if we approved the courthouse being closed on the November election. I know we did for the primary, but if we did also for the November election, I'd like for the courthouse to be open.
Yeah, we did in the resolution that we passed, close it to the public on both election days, both the primary and the election on November 3rd. And so I think the motion right now is to have it open to the public on November 3rd. It would be changing what we had decided in the past because we thought it was necessary to have the building vacated for the use by the Election Commission.
There is a specific way, Commissioner McCamey or Jay, that we, Waddell, to phrase that, to rescind it, or do we just need to, can we just vote on a new motion?
We cannot rescind the motion because part of it has already been carried out. What we do is, in my opinion, we have a new motion, and that would be what Commissioner Waddell proposed, is to keep it open on November the 3rd to the public, and that would override what we did in August or July.
Okay. And motion by Commissioner Waddell, seconded by Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Smallridge.
Yes, I had a question for Mr. Stevens. I think he mentioned that approximately 5% of the votes were rejected. What was the main reason for those rejections?
Mainly I think the biggest reason probably was the fact that signatures did not match, or there may have been a situation, we had a person that had died, that was that person before they had actually voted, and that one would have been rejected. I think mainly it was because of signature issues. Trying to think of anything else that would have cropped up. I think that was the main reason.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to the question I have. I have a neighbor who has a severe problem, whose writing has changed drastically, maybe over the last 5 or 10 years. And if you looked at the signatures, I'm sure they don't look like they match up. But how do we avoid that for someone that may have some serious problems with their hands?
Well, what we've done is we have a permanent record of their signature, and you're right, sometimes they can be several years old. However, but we've also compare other voting documents and other things with regard to the actual, the request itself. We will compare that signature with what's on the ballot. We'll also then look at past applications that we may have. It's not just one signature that we necessarily will compare with, but there'll be several that we look at. And it doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch. There just has to be a situation where there is some sort of, comparative distinctions. Everybody's signature has a certain comparison, there is some distinctive part of that, how they make a certain letter. And, all we're looking for is something, in the ballpark that looks very similar. And it doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch.
It just seems to me like it's a pretty difficult decision to make with people who, end up with arthritis and all kinds of things that changes the way their signature look. But I'm sure you do the best you can with it. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we have a lot of people that don't realize that we do compare signatures. And so spouses will try and sign for their other spouse or other family members will sign. And of course that has to be rejected. So yes, if it's a situation where a person does have a health issue and their signature isn't exactly the way it is, we try and, like I said, we'll look to, if there's any commonality that in that signature, then we will approve that signature.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Mark, I've been told that when you request an absentee ballot, that you're having to send a form in where you give your name, address, social security number, and you're signing it. Is the purpose of the social security number so that you can check against social security death index?
No, it's just a check and balance to make sure that that person is who they say they are.
Okay.
It's check and balance. You know, we've got their number in the system. It's just another form of check and balance to make sure that that person is actually requesting that ballot. We have
Well, then how are you going about checking with the death index to make sure that the votes that are made are not by someone who's deceased?
Well, we get a death report very frequently, probably twice a month from the state, that they get their records from the health department, and we will actually purge those folks out, and we do that very regularly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, let's go to the board and vote.
Mr. Chairman, what's the motion?
Motions by Commissioner Waddell is to open the courthouse back up to the public on Election Day, November 3rd.
Thank you. Yeah, so much discussion there. I got sidetracked. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Any other questions for Mr. Stevens? Thank you for your time this evening, Mr. Stevens. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have a great night.
Next, solid waste report from Jeff Trabalka.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to request, in the past several months, we have closed down the recycling container at Wolf Valley Convenience Center. And I think we finally reached a point in terms of number of hauls and a reduction in tonnage that we can reopen that to the public. And so what I'd like to do is take a week. I'm going to have a sign made up and have a sign up for a week, letting people know that we will begin the recycling in the center compactor at Wolf Valley again. Put some ads up in the Clinton Courier. Seems like probably that's where most of the people who use that facility will be getting any news media from. And we'll also put it up on the county website. And I'd like to return and open that on October 5th. It's a Monday.
Okay, Commissioner Wandell, do you have a motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm stuck on the mute button there. I'd like to make a motion based on Solid Waste Director Jeff Trabaka's recommendation that we open up recycling at East Wolf Valley Convenience Center on October 5th and allow him to do the necessary notifications as requested.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Wandell, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Commissioner Fritz.
This one had nothing to do about the opening up the recycling line, which I'm for, because I've been getting a lot of calls about why we don't have recycling there right now. But I'm still noticing a lot of cars with Knox County license plates, and I noticed that nothing is being done to check to see if they are Anderson County residents. I know we've sit in a bad place by us being that close to the Knoxville line. So that's still a concern of mine, is that the large number of Knox County tags I'm seeing coming in and out of that facility.
Mr. Fritz, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you remember in the past, several years past, we actually have done like random sampling at the convenience centers to check license plates and driver's licenses to see whether the people coming into the facility were actually county residents. And I think what we found at that point was when you purchase a vehicle in Knox County for some period of time, it's going to have a Knox County plate until the next calendar year when you may get an Anderson County plate. And so just seeing a Knox County tag may not be an indicator that the person is from Knox County. And we did have multitudes of complaints about the checking, and I think the Solid Waste Board even had said at that point when we talked about it that we did not want to do the spot checks because it was slowing the lines down and aggravating our residents to a large degree. However, that being said, I have no issue at all of having the attendants, particularly at that center, doing a random spot check if we decide to do that. We can actually talk about that. We've got a Solid Waste Board meeting coming up the second Tuesday of October. We can discuss that if you'd like, and then come back to commission at the October meeting.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Yeah, I just wanted to support what Jeff said. I bought a vehicle in Knoxville and it ended up with Knox County plates on it. Doesn't mean I'm not a resident of Anderson County.
Any other discussion? Go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously. Jeff, did you have any other items?
No, not currently. Sure, we'll probably have some stuff coming up. We're going ahead with the bidding process on renovating the Marlowe Convenience Center, and I believe Commissioner McCamey has got some information for you about the property on East Wolf Valley Road that we are looking at for potentially moving the Wolf Valley Convenience Center to.
Commissioner McCamey?
Yes, sir. Good news. I can finally divulge some information. The old Empire Gas properties on East Wolf Valley Road, which is just less than a quarter of a mile from where we're at now there, is for sale. I got an email this morning from the manager of the real estate sales for AmeriGas, which now owns that property. And they said if we would order a commercial appraisal, that would become their asking price and that they want us to have the property. I feel like I'm family up there because they're in Pennsylvania, but I've talked to them on at least a weekly basis and sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. But we finally got that information this morning. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion that we allow the mayor to obtain a commercial appraisal of the property and pay for it with, I guess we'd have to appropriate the money not to exceed $1,500.
Okay, is that the motion you're making?
Yes, sir.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Scott.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion on that motion?
I think over in Oak Ridge, I can hear the folks out in Claxton woo-hooing. That's great news. Good for you, Robert. Good, that's good news. I mean, I've gone over there and helped, throw garbage and that's just wonderful. Good. It's about time.
I do want to remind you that this will take a 2/3 vote because it hasn't been to the budget committee, but to the appropriation from county general fund.
Well, I think we've got the money though, because we just put $2 million off to the side and $1,500 is nothing.
Commissioner Smallridge. May be muted, Commissioner Smallridge.
I'm sorry. My question was, are we appropriating the money at this point, or are we waiting to see what the bid or what the cost might be? I mean,
Yes, I think the motion is to go ahead and authorize the mayor to obtain a commercial appraisal of the property and appropriate up to $1,500, not to exceed $1,500. And I spoke with the mayor. She thinks that it'll be less than that, but if we do that, it would take a 2/3 vote majority because it hasn't been to the budget committee. But that's what I want to support.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner McCamey, that property, is that natural gas or is that like a gas station? Excuse my ignorance for not really knowing where the property is.
It was at one time they sold propane gas.
Okay.
In the county. There's 2 large tanks that are not on the property. They're on actual railroad property. Those will be removed within the next 2 weeks, taken to their office in Knoxville. And the property, as far as I know, has no environmental concerns. It was just used for parking and people coming in to bring their propane tanks to have them filled. But like I said, the big tanks that held the propane are not on this property and have never been on this property. They're actually on the railroad property, and that's one of the reasons that they want to go ahead and sell the property and move those tanks, because they're not needed there anymore.
Well, environmental was a concern, and is it a necessity for us to have some type of an environmental report done prior to moving forward with consideration for purchase?
The mayor has said that she would reach out to TDEC and see what they felt about it, and we would know that in the future.
Because I'm sure you're more than aware than most of us that cleaning up environmental concerns is a very costly project.
Right. There shouldn't be any problems, but, we're going to get TDEC to look at it anyway.
Okay.
And we can even have an environmental assessment if the commission desires. I'm not sure what the cost would be on that, but.
Well, I think a good title search should show if there is any need for and concerns on that regard as far as possible environmental.
I guess I'm going to tell my age, but I'm pretty sure there's been nothing in the last 50 years.
All right, thank you for that report, Robert.
Commissioner Fritz.
Another advantage about this piece of property also is that we have a main sewer line that runs by that property. So that makes that property that much more valuable.
Not only that, Mr. Chairman, but, we get rolled up about at least once every 3 months where we're at now because of the leachate that runs out into the creek that we're sitting on over there on that 1/3 of an acre. This is a 2-acre site, and I am sure that it'll be something that this commission can, actually look at in years to come and say, boy, that was a great deal. Another advantage is the property is completely level. There's no mountains to move and no valleys to fill. It's just a matter of going in and pouring some concrete, sewer lines, and getting us a building there and pour the pads to set the containers up. So that's a real advantage too.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, let's go to the board and vote. You want us to just manually put in your vote, Commissioner White? Commissioner White votes yes, so motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all. It's been a long time coming.
Thank you, Commissioner McCabe. I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Any other questions for Jeff? Well, we've got him on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Denenberg.
I have one real quick. I'm sorry, I should have had RTS. Jeff, what do I do with a bunch of old paint cans?
Commissioner, is that oil-based paint or latex paint?
For the majority, probably latex, but I'm sure there's some oil-based in there somewhere.
Okay, we do take oil-based paints at the Blockhouse Valley facility.
Okay.
So that would be lacquer, shellac, varnish, polyurethanes, anything. If it's oil-based, it will say combustible or flammable somewhere on the label.
I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, the latex just needs to be dried solid. And once it is solid, it can be bagged up. It does need to be bagged and then put in the regular garbage.
Okay.
What I recommend to the residents that ask me that question is the quickest and easiest way to dry latex is to get a cardboard box, a tub, a tote of some kind, line it with a garbage bag. If you put a little bit of regular plain old clay cat litter in that bag and mix your paint with it, stir it up, in a day or two it'll dry and you can just tie the whole bag shut and put it in the garbage. But also recommend when you put the cans in there, make sure you leave the lids off, because I have had several residents, particularly in Oak Ridge, when the garbage guys see a paint can shape in the bag, they will look in. Their assumption, if the lid is on it, is that there's still liquid in it. So if you leave the lid off and they can see that it's dry and empty, you're good to go.
Thanks for the information. I really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Wandell, for your past service.
Thank you,
Next up,
Jeff.
Director of Schools, Dr. Parrott, do you have anything?
Thank you, Chairman Anderson, and congratulations on being chairman. And Mr. Wandell, thank you for the past 2 years of making my life a little bit easier. I will say that I say this a lot, but we've got a great school system. Our staff and parents and students, they're amazing. Through all this COVID, they've done an excellent job. Very, very able to work with our parents, try to fix any roadblocks we had out there and things like that. And as of today, we had 5,978 students, about 1,175 students online. That's went down about 100 over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We've had some of them that have started coming back. We do still have some parents that have, due to health concerns, they're coming and going online, and we're still working with them on that. But overall, it's been a great start to school year. After fall break, we have quite a few of our students that will be coming back from online and going in person, and we're working on that right now. And our attendance is really holding good. Today our attendance was 95%, and on any good day, that's pretty well where we're at. We've been able to cover our classes with substitutes. the board voted last month, if you looked at some of the board minutes, on Friday, we're going to be paying subs extra money, an extra $50 a day to help with, to make sure we can cover all of our classes, because we don't want to put anybody in two classes together. We want to make sure we can keep that social distancing. And so that's been working out real good. As you know, we still have people that get sick, and the one thing we're not doing is sending anybody out of town on any professional development or things like that. So all of our teachers and staff are home. Another thing is our maintenance. The gym is supposed to be completed at Grand Oaks by October the 5th. And I know Mr. White's been working on that for a long time, and we're going to have a ribbon cutting down there. I hope may have to do it virtual, but that's been a long time coming. We have completed the roofs at Clinton High School. Andersonville, they are working on completing the roof over the cafeteria at Andersonville, and then they'll be moving to Claxton Elementary School, and they'll be working on the round pod down there and working on those things. We also have completed all of our middle schools except Norwood Middle School gym. We'll be completing that here sometime in fall break, or if not by Christmas break. Looking at replacing the track at Clinton High School, and it's been kind of a hard thing to do, because the people that usually do our tracks, they're not working right now. And so we're giving them just about a couple more weeks, and if they don't come in, we're going to try to find somebody else to do that. And that money has been set aside to take care of that. Another good note is that, as you know, we're buying all of our teachers new laptop computers. Chromebooks, we've got all the Chromebooks, but to run virtual, you really need to run the meetings, you really need a laptop computer. So through some of our CARES Act money, we're buying middle and high school to start off with, and then we're going to look at we bought all the elementary people that are doing virtual, and hopefully by the end of the year, we can buy all of those. So that'll just be to replace all the desktops. We won't have desktops in schools anymore. And we did get a grant from, it's called an E-rate grant. So we've already started rewiring, updating our schools for the internet access. When you get 1,100 students on all at one time, and they're all doing it wireless, it bogs down the system. So we're redoing that, and got a grant for right over $1 million. We've got to put $200,000 in to offset that, but we're being able to use a grant from state of Tennessee that will offset that $200,000. So we're going to do all of that for almost nothing. So we're excited about that, and I will answer any questions.
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Perry, for kind words. It's been a pleasure to work with you and continue to do so. Just wanted to ask you, you probably may not have an update, but I wanted to see if you did. Do you know any updates from TDOT down at Claxton Four-Way, how soon they're going to wrap up things down there? May or may have some answers on that next anyway.
No, I haven't heard anything on that. I know they've still got, I went by there yesterday, and they still had the barrels out, so we're not being able to use the turn lane yet, but it looks really close, and it's going to look nice down there. Get it done.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, Mr. Wandell, a question you asked last month, and I forgot to add it into my report. We're going to be doing a survey to our 9th through 12th grade students and parents over the next couple of weeks to talk about graduation, if they want to keep graduation at the football fields or they want to move it back to Thompson Bowling Arena. So I've asked that to report to the board, the school board, in October, and I'll be bringing that report back to you all in October.
Great idea. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Waddell.
Just like to say, we're really real happy with the way things are going at Norris Middle School. Everything's working very well. Only thing, we'd sure like lockers be opened up as soon as we can. And them kids are all carrying real heavy backpacks, and the ones that got to walk, you know, it's getting a little heavy for them. So the new principal, I know he's been, I guess it was a rough year to start as a principal, so everything's new. So he's doing a very fine job, and all the teachers were very pleased. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Parrott? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Have a good night.
County Mayor, Mayor Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, congratulations, Commissioner Anderson, on your chairmanship.
Thank you.
Just put your seatbelt on, hold on tight. And then I do want to thank Commissioner Wandell for his chairmanship. And I just can't say enough good things about his chairmanship. And when I look at a leader is someone who encourages people. And many times I consider myself one of the cats that Commissioner Wandell has had to herd and, you know, keep in my lane. And I think he just did a fantastic job of being fair and just. And, you know, the nature of politics in and of itself is we all have different views and beliefs and how we best accomplish things. And many times that meant Commissioner Wandell being a translator of intent and motives and goals and helping us all, you know, whether that's departments or commissioners and mayor. You know, I just think you did a fantastic job, Mr. Chairman. Oh, well, I see I got to break the habit. Commissioner Wandell. So
thank you, Mayor Frank, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me speak to her. And I've enjoyed working with you, Mayor, and I think that herding of the cats went both ways. So I appreciate it, and I think Chairman Anderson's going to take us right on to the next level, and we'll all support him just like we did together. And we learn to be humble and respect each other. I think we can accomplish anything, and I think that's been proven with this commission and your leadership and the department head. So thank you.
Amen. Thank you, sir. The items on under my report are appointments and reappointments to the following boards and committees. The first is the Anderson County Conservation Board. This is Scott Burton with a term expiring 12/20.
Motion by Commissioner Wandell to approve.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Seconded by Commissioner Meredith. Any discussion? Let's go to Commissioner McCamey.
Yeah, I have a question. 12/20, that's what, 3 months?
Yes, that's to fill, Commissioner Fritz joined the Charter Committee. And so he stepped aside from the Conservation Board. So this is to fill his, the remaining time on his term, Commissioner McCamey.
Okay, that's what I need to know. I didn't know if that was a typo or we normally don't appoint people for 3 months.
Any other discussion? Go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next are reappointments to the 911 Board, Nathan Sweet, EMS, and Jeremy Huddleston, Oak Ridge PD. And then Tyler, if we can remove Tyler's name, I'd like to give a little background here. I have a expired term, and as many of you know, and I've explained this over the years, it's been a slow walk. One of the things I have tried to do on the 911 board is change a little bit of the makeup to being more inclusive with the emergency responder departments. So for instance, for the first time placing emergency management on that board, then moving and putting EMS on that board, and then fire service representative. And then, for instance, Mr. Huddleston has a lot of tech experience in bringing someone in from Oak Ridge. And so what I'm going to do here is Mr. Mays did not know, he thought it was a vacancy. And so what I'm going to do is when there is a vacancy, I'll declare vacancy, and then I will reappoint him when that vacancy exists. That way there is no misunderstanding or misrepresenting, or no one believes that he is taking the position of someone else. So if we could just pull him out for this particular appointment process, and then I will come back to you later. So, but I am recommending for approval the reappointments of Nathan Sweet and Jeremy Huddleston.
Motion by Commissioner Dennenberg, seconded by Commissioner Yeager. Your motion, Commissioner Dennenberg, to approve Nathan Sweet and Jeremy Huddleston.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, with a revisit for Tyler Mays.
Thank you. Any discussion? Go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The next is an appointment for Charles Dusty Irwin for the Anderson County Water Authority.
Motion by Commissioner Meredith, seconded by Commissioner Isbell. That's motion to approve, correct, Commissioner Meredith?
Yes, that's correct.
Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes 15 yes, 1 no.
Okay, the next item is I'm requesting approval of resolution number 2009-824. This is a resolution that would authorize Anderson County to apply for and match a 2020-2021 TDOT multimodal access grant. I put in a copy of the notice of intent. This is a two-step process where we have to do a kind of a mini application, if you will, and then they choose from that pool of applicants, they choose who they would like to submit a full application. We were chosen. We applied for this with your support and help last year. We fell a few points shy. So we're fine tuning this proposal. The proposal is for sidewalks on both sides of the road there around Norris Middle School. I mean, not Norris, I'm sorry, I was thinking about Commissioner Waddell. Norwood Middle School and Elementary School. And then we've had some safety issues there when officers, for instance, if they get out early or something and Oliver Springs is not there able to help, we've had some safety issues. So this proposal would enhance the sidewalks there. And so I'm asking for approval of this resolution, and then also authorization to submit a letter of support.
Got a motion by Commissioner Meredith approving the resolution and authorizing a letter of support.
That's correct.
Seconded by Commissioner Isbell. Any discussion? If not, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And that's all the business I had. I did put on your report. Thank you to County Commission, who is always so supportive of any kind of infrastructure improvements. Anderson County was awarded a community development block grant in the amount of $523,729. This will aid in the expansion of water lines, and the financial match itself is provided by the Water Authority on this particular project, but finance and myself and Leanne, but a lot will hinge on finance, and particularly Randy Walters as we walk through this grant process. So thank you to Commission, and I just wanted you all to know that your support paid off and will bring water to a lot of folks' homes.
Thank you, Mayor Frank. I know a lot of people in District 3 were really excited when that announcement came out. Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, we talked just briefly, it might have been in operations or might have been the last meeting at new business, I can't remember, but about the grass and TDOT and the right of ways. And I just wanted to, I don't know if you made any calls, but if you did, looked like there was some action being taken in Claxton. I want to thank all the residents who spoke up and sent notes, and specifically want to thank Shannon Kelly Wandell for getting with the state representative. So there was some grass being cut out there, and especially around the school, Claxton. And I don't know if you made any calls, but if you did, I just wanted to say thank you.
Yes, well, and definitely, I'm sure your wife calling the state representative, that always helps. But I did reach out as well, and I know they've trained, what they do is they usually pass that on to TDOT. So if it's a question where I can just get something directly from TDOT, I do. But a lot of times I know that if it comes from the state official's office, it kind of helps get on a higher radar. So we can thank them for that.
Thanks. And if you can just get an update on that intersection, and you can email me or call or whatever, I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Commissioner Isabel.
Chairman, Mayor, I just want to say thank you, and thank you to the members of this legislative committee, this body that voted to help do that on behalf of our constituents. Vice Chairman Val and myself have, because there's a lot of people that's going to get water that never thought it would happen. Thank you.
Any other questions for the mayor? All right. Thank you very much, Mayor Frank.
Thank you.
Next, Law Director report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations. And I know we'll all miss Tracy. He's done a fantastic job. I've truly enjoyed working with him, and I really appreciate you, Tracy, for all you've done. I mean that. Going to my written report, you've got the contract approvals under Section A. If anybody has any questions on Section A, Section B is a new lawsuit. It's actually a refile. Section C is new codes enforcement complaints filed. Section D is dismissed cases that we dismissed due to compliance achieved. Then one lawsuit update, we had a lady in court for contempt, and the chancellor issued a contempt order last week on that lady. The constable election has already been taken care of. Comes to item G, the Claxton Optimist Club. As you know, I can only have Anderson County as my client. I can only legally represent Anderson County. I had two commissioners bring to me an issue at Claxton Optimist Club. They need a simple rental agreement reviewed and maybe some amendments made to it. This has also been through the mayor. Also, I need permission to assist them. It'll take me no longer than an hour. I'll do that off duty, do it one night, and it'll just be to revise their rental form and get it down to them. But they are a nonprofit, and they are really not affiliated with Anderson County, and I want to get your permission before I move forward with that assistance.
Got a motion by Commissioner Scott,
Yes, sir. And I do have a quick question to put into that. Jay, is this a pro bono work?
Oh, of course. I don't make a penny off any of this. The only person that pays me for legal services is Anderson County. I don't take new clients. I don't. The few cases that you've approved, like Briceville Volunteer Department, Medford Volunteer Fire Department, and if you approve this one, I don't take any money. I do it off duty. I don't do it on county time, and it's just a public service to help these not-for-profits that provide essential community services for us. And
I just wanted it to be, stated that the county's not charging anything, you're not charging anything, that it is to be done.
You're absolutely correct, Commissioner Scott. If the county's not charging anything, I don't charge anything. We're doing it strictly to help Claxton Optimist Club.
I appreciate that.
Second by Commissioner Mead. Any other discussion?
No further discussion. Ready to vote?
Okay, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item I have for you is item H on my written report. That's online delinquent tax auctions. I've been to a couple of seminars where this has been presented, and I've been speaking with the trustee and also the county mayor about this for probably over a year. I've got a tax sale scheduled for the first Saturday of December. And due to the COVID crisis, this may be an excellent opportunity to at least try out online delinquent tax auction. It's a very interesting concept. No longer will we meet in the Chancery Court. There'll be a month preview online. All the prospective bidders will have a chance to look at the properties for 1 month. And they have to pre-register. We pre-register even on our in-person auctions. They have to do that prior to the auction starts, and we can keep that auction open for as long as we want, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever. And the results from these online auctions are a lot better than in-person auctions. Couple things. They get a lot more participants, up to 3 times as many participants as their average. The other thing is it eliminates all the contentious situations where we have people threatening other bidders, intimidating other bidders, property owners coming in, not wanting their properties to sell. It eliminates all that. And people are actually very comfortable sitting at home and bidding on things such as eBay and Gov Deals. And this falls right into it. They can sit in the comfort of their home. They can look at the computer screen that throws up the aerial view. It throws up the tax card. You can click on the property lines. It's a lot of benefits to it right there in front of you before you place your bid. You can do automatic increases. If somebody outbids you, you can increase it by a monetary amount or a percentage amount. So there's a lot of advantages, I think, to going to a delinquent tax auction online. The other issue that I want to let you know is there is a commission for the company that runs this. There's 2 companies that are in this business in the Southeast. One charges a $175 flat fee, and that is picked up by the bidder. The other one charges 4% commission, and that's picked up by the bidder. So Anderson County will not pay for the company that operates this online delinquent tax auction at all. But I'm probably leaning towards the company after looking at several proposals, looking at the company that charges $175 a flat rate, and that would be to the bidder, not Anderson County. Does anybody have any questions on this? With the COVID crisis, the Supreme Court order on the 3rd floor, we're going to have to do something different. We can't have 60 to 75 people in a courtroom right now. And I want to keep on with our current trend of doing a delinquent tax auction each year. But I'd love to hear any comments you may have or concerns that you have. But this is all new to us. Again, I've been to a couple seminars, but I have some answers for your questions, but I'd be glad to research it more and get any answers that you may have questions to tonight. But can I answer any questions on this issue?
Motion by Commissioner Denenberg.
That is correct. I would, excuse me, wanting to make a motion to allow the law director to explore this further if he feels the need to. But quite frankly, I think that is a motion that we really should just move forward on, because I think it's an extremely practical idea, especially given the current situation in the country.
Commissioner Scott.
Well, thank you. I wasn't trying to do an amendment. I was trying to get to speak, and it was, anyways. So what would it take to register online, Jay?
You fill out their form, which is a registration form. We can ask for a letter of credit from the bank saying they have funds up to a certain amount to cover their check if we want to. We'll put all our Internal Revenue Service forms on there for them to fill out, which is basically just one. And then we'll have our disclosure forms that we offer normally at all our delinquent tax auctions. And it's a fairly easy process. I went through the registration myself. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes, unless we choose to go with a letter of credit for the individuals that are bidding. That's totally up to us, but that's all that it entails. And again, we do a pre-registration form when you get your bidder form when we do the live auction in the Chancery Court. So it's not much different at all. And you can do this pre-registration in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to come to the courthouse and pre-register or anything like that.
Well, and one of the reasons why I was asking is, you know, the last thing I'd hate to see happen is for somebody who's residing at a property, you know, fib through the whole thing and make it look like, you know, they are the sole winner of the property, when in actual fact, they don't even have enough to pay their taxes. I think that it would be a great idea. And I'm with Catherine in saying that, yeah, you know, go ahead and look further into this, and with a view of doing it. And giving it a shot, especially with everything being done online, people are a little more comfortable sitting at their keyboards.
Yeah, I believe that. And those are some excellent comments, but I want to let you know I need permission to move forward at this point. It's mid-September, and we've got a delinquent tax auction in December. I want to move forward with a contract, and I'm only going to contract. You guys will see the contract next month. I'd only like the contract for one tax auction, not a term of months. I want to see how this goes. I want to see how our citizens react to it, how it works with the Chancery Court, how they react to it, how the chancellor feels about it. And but I only want to do it one time until we get a better grasp of how this works and better feedback on it. But I need a motion to move forward is what I need.
Yeah, I think that's what Catherine was doing, and that's what I was going to say, is we're not going to know how it's going to work out until we give it a whirl.
That's right. I'll bring you the contract back next month, executed and ready to go.
Awesome.
And if I need to amend the motion, I'll be, excuse me, happy to do so, to allow the law director to move forward for one contractual term for the online auction.
Yes, ma'am, that's fine. Subject to you approving the contract next month.
Commissioner Isabel, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, and we'll see how this goes. please let your constituents know the tax sale will be online this year, and we'll do some public service announcements through ACTV and the Clinton Courier, Oak Ridger, and the Norris Bulletin to let everybody know that they need to pre-register prior to the tax sale and letting them know how it's going to work. But thank you so much. I look forward to doing this. The next item I have is the robotics competition. I think this is an update, and this may be a little bit of a confusion on my part. This was a fantastic idea by Commissioner Isbell, Commissioner Denenberg, to do a robotics competition. And what happened on this, the impetus was Commissioner Isbell found some sites that had robots that were being developed to clean the courthouse for viruses and things of that nature, and through UV lighting. And we implemented the UV lighting in our HVAC system. And UV lighting has been tested. It's been determined that it removes 99.6 or 99.6, 99.7, somewhere in there, percentage of the microbes in the air. So Commissioner Isbell found a robot that did this, and came up with this brilliant idea with Commissioner Denenberg to see if our high schools could do a robot in a similar fashion. Well, I went to the school system. They put out an email that afternoon, and believe it or not, they had tremendous response from the robotics teachers. Now, the way this is laid out is a statewide competition sponsored through VEX Robotics, and they've been doing it for several years now. And both Clinton, Anderson County, and Oak Ridge high schools have participated in this VEX competition. And that's really what I thought this was about, to enter a robot prototype in the statewide competition. But as I talked to some people about it, I think some folks were under the impression that we were going to do a countywide for our high school students robotics competition. So if that is your desire, we can set that up. I guess we'd have to bring in outside judges, but I'd have to talk more with the school system about how we judge this. But if we're leaving it up to just the statewide competition for our 3 high schools to make their product and submit that product to the statewide competition, I think we're in good shape. But if you did want to do a local competition, please let me know. You might want to think about this and bring it up at operations next month, but that'll take some more doing. I'm sure we've got some interest. I've got one high school teacher at Clinton that emails me every couple of days. They're really excited. Her crew has already got a prototype together, so they've really taken the ball and started running with it. So I'm excited about this, but if you would, just whatever your desire is, to have a countywide only, or for them to submit their submissions to the statewide competition, it's fine with me. But if you want a countywide competition, we need to make some decisions here pretty soon on that. Thank you.
Commissioner Isbell.
Jay, I don't know what happens to the prototypes once the competition is over with, but I spoke with other members of the Coal Creek Coal Miners Museum Board, and if there's one available, we would like to have one to use at the museum. It'd be something like, the old innovation to the new innovation. And as you go by, you can actually see the robot in action at night or whenever. But if that's possible, thank you.
I think it's certainly possible. I'd love to get one in our school system. I'd love to get it in the courthouse. The courthouse is laid out perfect for one. And also the schools are large hallways that we can close down at night and let the robot do its cleaning going up and down the aisles. The way I see this thing, and from my reading, is it works on somewhat of a combined technology, of course, but the tracking mechanism is similar to the vacuum cleaners, robot vacuum cleaners that you have in your house, where it makes a pass, it logs the path in its memory, and then it traces that path back every day, every time you turn it on. So it's really neat. If you want to look at some of the articles that Commissioner Isbell has sent me, I'll be glad to share those with you. But I think it's a fantastic idea. I know our high schools are really pushing this idea, and I'm hoping we can come back from Brentwood, where the state finals are this year, and come back with some winners for our area. But I'm excited about it. But if we can bring this up in a discussion at operations next month and see if you do want to have a countywide competition, we'll be glad to do that. But right now I'm proceeding forward with the thought that we will, they'll take their submissions to the statewide competition sponsored by VEX.
Got a motion by Commissioner Denenberg.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion to move this to October's operations.
Seconded by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion? Go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. And that's all I've got on my written report unless somebody has questions, but I'm looking forward to working with Josh, Commissioner Anderson, and certainly Shane, Commissioner Val. And I always glad to have Robert back at Parliamentarian. Not that Commissioner Yeager didn't do a good job at Robert. That's why they call it Robert's Rules. I finally figured that out many years. But anyway, it's sad to see Commissioner Wandell leave, but he'll be with us still as a member, and I'm sure he'll enjoy putting his input in. But we've had a great 2 years with Commissioner Wandell at our helm, and thank you, sir. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Commissioner McCamey.
Yeah, Jay, going back to codes enforcement complaints.
Yes, sir.
Has there been any resolution to the burned out property in the Hidden Hills subdivision? I know there's a couple of lawsuits there, but where do we stand on that?
We went in and cleaned it up and attached a lien on the property. And we continue to work and try to find the owner of this property. The sheriff's office is helping. They want to talk to her about an arson case on this same property. They've been unable to find her. So our next move, I've got about 3 people in that subdivision that want to place bids on it. So we'll probably just go ahead and foreclose on our lien and put that property up for auction.
Okay.
So we have cleaned it up.
Okay, but there was some type of lawsuit between the 2 finance companies. One, they sold.
They released it. From what I understand, before we sold it, before we attached our lien, one of them had released their lien. So that helped us a lot in that case.
Okay, so we're at liberty now to go ahead and foreclose on that?
Yes, sir. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to find this owner, and it doesn't look like the sheriff's office is going to be able to find her. So our next step would be to foreclose on the lien and sell it at public auction.
Okay. Will you keep me informed on that?
I certainly will, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Other than that, I'm done, and thank you for your time tonight, sir.
Thank you, Jay. Any other questions? All right, let's move on to committee and board reports. Operations Committee, Chairman Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Meade made a motion to send the county commission agenda and minutes to state representatives so they can be better informed and allowed to make comments. Commissioner McCamey seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Meade, seconded by Commissioner Isbell. Any discussion? Let's go to the board. Motion passes unanimously.
Commissioner Meade made a motion to request the mayor to write a letter to the governor and copy to our state representative for the availability of the COVID-19 quick test. Mr. Yeager seconded the motion. Motion passed forward to full commission for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Meade for approval, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge, and discussion, Commissioner Meade.
The thing about this is that without having a faster response to some of these tests, it really puts a major obstacle in controlling a place where you've had some kind of a small breakout. Having tests that take, although I was tested at the Anderson County point there, north of Clinton, at the health center, and it took like 3 days to get the results back. I think sometimes it's only 2 days, but still, that's a lot of time for you to stay hunkered down if you think maybe you're a problem.
Thank you, Commissioner Meade. Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. I was just looking to see if Nathan Sweet was still on here, but I'm not seeing him. Mayor Frank, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
There she is. Several weeks ago, I was having a conversation one of the few days that I was at EMS, and Director Sweet made a comment to me about an instrument that he had come across that would allow for immediate testing of the COVID. And during our conversation, I had asked him, well, is this something that can be adapted or reprogrammed for the next epidemic that we have that comes down the pike or other medical need? And he said it was. Has he had any conversation with you about this device?
I know it's not ringing a bell, Commissioner Denenberg. I know he's talked about a lot of equipment and even policies that even once we're through COVID that he intends to keep in place. And I know his team has talked about that, but he may have mentioned it and I'm not recalling it right now, but I can definitely reach out to him.
Well, excuse me, the issue that was just raised, I mean, this is something that certainly could be used countywide. It was a little expensive. I don't know if it was something that could be reimbursable because of the monies that are being, sent back to the counties that are being spent on COVID. But I thought that it would certainly be something that would be a big benefit to the county if, if it was researched out and found to be something that we certainly could use immediately for these types of issues because, God forbid that, we have him start running through the courthouse or any of the other facilities. So,
yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to ask you about it and would like to have more information from Director Sweet in the future.
Okay, I'll get into it
thank you.
ASAP, first thing in the morning.
You don't have to do it quite that quick, but thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, let's go to the board. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, the next item of discussion was not meant to come to full commission for discussion, but I actually saw that our road superintendent, Gary Long, was here just a few minutes ago, and I don't know if he's left or if he's in the hallway. But it was Commissioner Anderson made a motion to refer the widening of Buffalo Road to the road committee. So I didn't know if he was still here, and that's what he wanted to speak about or not. It's something that's coming to the road committee. I think Commissioner White's the chairman of that committee, I think. Next, Commissioner Meade made a motion to approve the Anderson County Government 2020-2021 holiday schedule. Commissioner McCamey seconded the motion. Motion passed for the full commission for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Meade, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Let's go to the board. Motion passes unanimously.
The next action item was actually under old business and it's already been taken care of and is with Wolf Valley Convenience Center. That concludes the Operations Committee report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Isbell. Nominating Committee report. Chairman Chuck Fritz.
The nominating committee met and to go over the openings on the various committees and commission boards and for the coming year. The Anderson County Beer Board and the Board of Zoning Appeals still has no applicants. So we still have an opening on each one of those boards at this time. The Civil Service Board, we had 2 applicants and 1 opening. Dr. Richie Noy received 4 votes out of 7 and was recommended to come before full commission for approval to serve on the Civil Service Board for the next term. So we approve, make a motion that we approve him to fill this position.
Motion.
That is my motion.
Commissioner Mead's motion, seconded by Wandell. Discussion. Commissioner Waddell.
Commissioner Fritz, it's my understanding that Jim Ferguson has submitted an application. It was late for the BZA. I don't know if that's something we can handle right now or if we'll have to wait till later.
We can take it up after this. If I hadn't even seen an application, so.
Okay, so we'll come back around to that one. I think it maybe got emailed a few days ago, commissioners. Any discussion on Commissioner Mead's motion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next one, we got your county commission committees and board committees and commissions. Basically, these were your county commissioners who are agreeing to swap out and change different positions for the next coming year. They're both, I'll just add both of those together, just going through each one individually. They were there for your looking and I'll submit these for your approval.
Motion by Commissioner Yeager for approval, seconded by Commissioner McCamey. Any discussion? Let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And then the last thing, I reckon then if we have an applicant then for the Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Ferguson, did everybody have that in your packet? Or did you get that information on your mail?
Annette emailed it. Okay.
So do I, if everybody's seen it and is comfortable with it, do we have a motion to accept him as an applicant for the BZA?
We got a motion by Commissioner Denenberg to accept.
That is correct. I fully acknowledge and hope that we will vote Mr. Jim Ferguson in.
Seconded by Commissioner Waddell. Any discussion? Now let's go to the board and vote. Motion passes unanimously.
So that basically covers all of our different committees then, except for our beer board, and we still have one opening left on it. So if anyone knows of anyone that would love to serve on our beer board, we do have that opening.
Amy?
Commissioner Fritz, does that come from a certain district, or I know at one time we had each district represented on our beer board. Is that still the case, or can this be from anybody?
My understanding is from anybody.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Scott?
Question for Tim Isbell. Tim, is that not a position that was from Kevin Rice, or is he still per se serving?
This was an opening from someone who had passed away.
That's correct.
Okay, but they were a resident of the county, correct?
That's correct. It was
Okay.
also the one that had to make a replacement for the BZA.
Okay, all right, thank you. I didn't think it was a commissioner. That's why I was asking.
Commissioner Mead? May be muted, Commissioner Mead.
Works better unmuted. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Kevin Rice doesn't live in the county anymore. He moved up towards Wartburg to a care center. He had been living in my district until he moved up there. I'll follow up on that to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that he's no longer living in Anderson County. I expect that that's a requirement to be on the board.
Thank you, Commissioner Mead. And then anyone that wants to apply for that opening can contact Annette and submit an application. Is that all for the nominating committee report?
That's all from the nominating.
Rules committee report? Chairman Fritz?
Rules Committee met to go over whether or not any changes need to be made to our rules for the fact that we are holding virtual meetings now. The committee more or less basically decided that we don't, hopefully our virtual meetings are not going to go on forever, and we don't need to make a permanent change to our rules for something that's going to eventually go away. We do have a resolution that we feel that meets the intent of the governor's and comptroller's orders, and that is Resolution 20-04-812. The only differences we found that in it was that when we passed this resolution at the very beginning, we only basically all the commissioners were doing virtual. Now we're doing both virtual and attending in person. So that is a change that is different. And so that opens up the door to where citizens can call in virtually and also attend in person and raise any questions or comments. As per our agendas and everything, it's a lot of our agendas are way too big to even think about publishing and things of that nature, because, some of our county commission agendas are 150, 200, and sometimes even more. So we basically can say that our agendas are on our county website and are available prior to our meetings, because a lot of times our agendas are not put out until after our notifications have to be put in the papers. And then also our minutes to every meeting is published after our meetings are conducted. One other thing we need to do is it happened this past month is that I think that happened with our charter commission, is that we sent in the notifications to have that meeting advertised, but the newspaper was at fault in failing to put the notification in the paper. So we felt that it was proper that we probably need to have someone to follow up to make sure that our notifications are publicized by the newspapers. So we've sent a request into our law director to review our resolution and to look at these recommendations and any other future recommendations he thinks deemed necessary, and present this resolution back to our commission for approval. And but that's the action that we took at this time, and hopefully we'll see something next month.
Thank you, Chairman Fritz. Any other questions about the Rules Committee report? Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. And to follow up with what Chuck was saying, with regards to having the meeting put in the newspaper, isn't it on Channel 95 as well? Showing the dates that we have our meetings and the location and so forth? Anyone?
There's some old law that comes into effect here. The law for a long time is your notification had to be in a paper of general distribution for the area affected. And nowadays, more people go online or can go to the website than probably even look at the paper. But the law still actually requires us to have a timely notice in a paper of general distribution.
Okay.
And so we're kind of stuck with that requirement.
Well, being that, our meetings are being, taking place online, is there not a way, or perhaps Jay can, chime in, that it can also state that it's, the agendas are online as well as on the television screen? There's not that many people that get a newspaper anymore. For that to be the only way that, we should be required to get the information out there.
Yes, ma'am. If you'll give me till next month, I'll adjust this resolution. I'll remind people in the resolution that our agenda is posted online.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Jay.
Yes, ma'am.
But that still didn't answer Commissioner Scott's question. Is it not also posted on Channel 95 on the TV screen?
The meeting is, it'll show up on the guide, but the agenda doesn't. The agenda's on the county website.
No, I think her question was, is it the actual time of the meeting being posted on the Channel 95?
Yes. I haven't looked. I know it's on their guide, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I don't receive it, so that was not thing I could help with an answer to.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Wandell.
And that's cool. And then perhaps at the bottom of, of when the meetings are, you can have some sort of note on there saying, please refer to the online edition for the agenda and or, meeting minutes. I know a lot of people prefer to watch it on television as well as online. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am, I got it.
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. According to Andy, Channel 95, he said, all meetings are advertised ahead of time on the station with the dates and times. Thank you, Andy.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's it from the Rules Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Fritz. And next up, the IT Advisory Committee report.
The IT Advisory Committee met on 9/11, and we added Sheriff Barker into the IT, where we keep care of the IT for the Sheriff's Department.
Any action items for that?
I believe that was it at this moment.
Oh, we need to approve that resolution.
Yeah.
That Brian passed.
Okay. With Resolution 20-8-823, amending Resolution 17-4-629.
Yes, sir.
Motion to amend by Commissioner Fritz. Or to approve amending.
That's correct.
Seconded by Commissioner Yeager. Any discussion? Go to the board. Motion passes unanimously. That was all from the IT committee. Mr. Brian, old business. Anything under old business? Okay. Any, Commissioner McCain? You might be muted, Commissioner McCain.
Okay, it self-muted itself somehow. At our August meeting, we set up a subcommittee of the Operations Committee, or approved a subcommittee made up of certain members of the Anderson County governing body and the city of Oak Ridge about the MOU with the, in reference to the General Sessions 2 court. On August the 19th, they were sent a letter asking them to appoint the mayor, the city manager, and 2 city councilmen to that committee. And they have totally ignored that letter. They had their meeting last Monday and it wasn't on their agenda and they took no action. So I would like to make a motion that we set a meeting of that subcommittee with the members that we have and have been approved by the county commission, and go ahead and set a meeting sometime after the 14th of, or I'm sorry, sometime after the 12th of October. That gives them the opportunity to put it on their agenda, and they'll meet on the 12th of October. And if we meet sometime during that week, if not, we go ahead and have the meeting without them if they choose not to participate. The letter, it pretty plainly stated that it was an invitation for them to be a part of that subcommittee. And, you know, if they have declined that invitation, then I think we ought to go ahead with the members we have. And I would make that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Commissioner McCamey. Do we have a second? You hit your motion button there, Commissioner McCamey. Okay, have a second. Got a second by Meade. Discussion. Commissioner Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I indeed did have conversation with Mayor Gooch over the weekend because he thought this might come up. He was emphatic that they are not ignoring the invitation. It's just that they had some extremely involved issues, as we all have had lately, and have just been very swamped and fully intend to take this up. Now, without question, he wanted it known that they in no way were ignoring the invitation and had every intention of participating. So I think maybe a phone call or so could probably eliminate any need to have any harsh intense with this, and I don't really see the need to move forward. I strictly think that an invitation for a meeting on a particular date would probably work well, but I, would certainly have to check with them to see what their schedules are, because I know that
Mr. Chairman.
Mayor Gooch is out of town quite frequently.
Yes, Jay.
Yes, sir. I'm not speaking against Robert's motion. But I did hear today from Ken Kuczynski, the city attorney of Oak Ridge. He stated pretty much the same thing as Commissioner Denenberg. They are not disregarding our letter. They've been involved in an airport issue, if you follow the papers on that, this motorsports complex issue, and also something to do with storage at the Oak Ridge Mall. They're intending to take action on this. He did mention to me that they might offer some changes to the composition of that committee, but didn't reveal that to me. But I can concur with Commissioner Denenberg that they are going to move forward according to Ken Kuczynski, the city attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was, going to say along the same lines as Catherine and Jay. I think it's unfortunate that we have a commissioner that's bringing a committee together, and because he doesn't get a response in what he feels is a timely manner, that he wants to bring it up to commission to say, okay, let's get this board together and let's start talking about it without him, since they're going to ignore us. I think Catherine has a very valid point. Just pick up the phone and give him a call and ask him, why didn't you respond to my previous request, whether it was by email, letter, phone call, et cetera. There are a lot of things going on in the city of Oak Ridge right now that are more important, not only to the city, but the people that reside in it. With timelines. I mean, there's businesses that are wanting to come in and they've got contracts to modify on large pieces of property in a specific time frame. So, just make a phone call and, make a proper appointment with them. But thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with Denenberg and Commissioner Scott that the city has been very busy, and I think we know from law director's conversation with the city attorney that they have good intentions of working with us. They have always worked with us. They worked with us in building that courtroom. They contributed money to that project. They are very cooperative, and they have been busy, and I think that we can give them time to work out a schedule with our committee members, Denenberg and Mead, and set up a meeting that agrees with both of our committees, and just give them time to do that. I think that they have good intentions, and I think it'll all work out in the end, and we'll all be happy for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Creasy. Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good discussion. I just wanted to ask Commissioner McCamey if I don't know how to say this, but I think perhaps the thought process is, if we could, and Robert, obviously you can correct me if I'm wrong, but perhaps the thought process was to maybe get an increase in payment for the city, the court in Oak Ridge, and those funds could be used for the senior center. Is because if it is, and the reason I ask it that way, I think the city of Oak Ridge would rather participate and just maybe talk about helping with the senior center.
No, we borrowed $1.4 million and agreed to pay that back over a 20-year note. And $600,000 went to purchase a senior center, and the other $800,000 was set aside for renovation of an existing county building. We have no agreement with the city of Oak Ridge. I mean, they could say tomorrow, forget it. And here we're out $800,000. that we'll be paying for the next 20 years. Your kids and my kids will be paying that, you know, over the next 20 years. And the private act plainly says that they shall provide adequate courtroom and court clerk space. And right now we have nothing after this next year in 2021. They've agreed to pay $30,000 a year through 2021. So, you know, there's no lease. There's nothing. We've got nothing to keep them from saying, you know, we're not going to pay you anymore. We have memorandum of understanding with the state of Tennessee because we bought a building and we gave it to the health department, and we have a memorandum of understanding. We have a contract with Waste Connections to run our convenience centers, a memorandum of understanding of what we will do and what they do. We have one that I opposed with the senior center, you know, that says we mow our own grass, but we mow the grass for the court down there. But we have to mow our own grass and change our own light bulbs and buy our own light bulbs. We have to pay for janitorial services at the court building. And, you know, we have no agreement with the city to do anything. And that's why I asked for a memorandum of understanding. It's $10,000 more than they agreed to pay this year. And for future reference, you know, I've asked in the memorandum of understanding it. And this memorandum of understanding was passed by the county commission and forwarded to them. And they said, no, we're rejecting it. And that's why we're back at this point now with a subcommittee to look at the memorandum and meet with them and try to work something out, because we don't have anything in writing. We have no agreement with the city of Oak Ridge whatsoever. And I feel like we need one. If there's $800,000 at stake here that we put into a building and no guarantee that we're going to get anything back from the city, when it's their responsibility, it's the city's responsibility to provide courtroom and court clerk space. And all I'm asking is a contract, a lease, a memorandum of understanding. I talked with our county law director. He thought a memorandum of understanding would be better than a lease, but I had called him about a lease with the city of Oak Ridge. Everybody else, we sign a lease, but we have nothing with the city over that court. We're just doing it out of the goodness of our hearts, and the county taxpayers, your county taxpayers' dollars are paying for it. And, you know, we sent them a letter on the 19th of August. That gave them time to get it on their agenda, in my opinion, before the 12th of September. They had almost a month to get it on their agenda, and they didn't. You know, it just like, and maybe I used the wrong word when I said they're ignoring us. You know, I don't know what the situation was, and I know they've been busy, but I don't think they've been any busier than we've been as a county commission. And you know, this is an issue that was brought up and passed back in June, prior to our budget session, budget year starting July 1. So by them not placing it on their agenda after they were given a month's notice, it appeared to me that they were just not interested in participating. And if they're not going to participate, then I think we need to go ahead and look at it and, you know, take some action on it, or, you know, maybe a motion to just do away with it altogether and give them the court. We offered them that court building one time for $1 and they chose not to take it. So, you know, I don't know where we're going from here.
Okay.
Just quickly, you know, and Robert, I appreciate you explaining. I think the city wants to work with us. I don't think they're trying to buck up against us. We obviously have an agreement in place, as you mentioned, to the end of the year. And I've always been a big fan of getting Mayor Gooch and Mayor Frank and letting them talk about this and letting them two handle it. When we get all these others involved, creates a lot of extra mindsets and things. And I'm a firm believer that Mayor Frank and Mayor Gooch can come to a resolution. And the only other thing I'll say is I don't want to lose the relationship we've built, not only with the city of Oak Ridge and all the city of Clinton and everything. I think we've done a great job, and it's not to sit here and say they did this, we did that, and that's not what you're saying, but we've had a lot of fire trucks given to us that have been a major benefit to our rural areas. And I just think that if we can let the mayors talk about it, let them handle the issue. I want you to know the city of Oak Ridge would be interested, in my opinion, in talking to you. If the grass needs cut at the senior center, maybe they can help. I think they're interested, but that's a separate discussion. And I understand you're saying that's not the driver, but so I appreciate the feedback, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be quiet.
And Tracy, I want to say I have always, I've been on county commission back in 1982, and I have supported the court all along. It's not, I've been accused of wanting to do away with the court, and that's not my intent. My intent is to get something in writing that, the next county commission won't have to deal with. The next city council won't have to deal with it. Give us something for the next 20 years to hang our hats on here.
Before I go to Commissioner Creasy and Commissioner Scott again, I just want to double check that. Has anyone not spoken yet that would like to comment on the motion? If not, Commissioner Creasy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me speak again. Yeah, the city has been cooperating with us for the full length of this endeavor we've had with them since 1990. And in fact, they offered us space. They offered to give us the building there behind City Hall that their recreation department is now occupying. We turned them down. We didn't want the building, but they offered to give us the space we wanted. And we kept looking for other space. They have went out of their way to try to help us with this issue and comply with that private act. They showed good faith. And we turned them down, and we decided to go with the Daniel Arthur. That was our choice. And the county commission made that choice. So that's why we're at the Daniel Arthur building. The city was offering us a fine building, and it would have had to have some modifications, but I don't think it would cost as much as the Daniel Arthur building modifications. But anyhow, they're going to work with us. They always have, and it'll all work out. I'm very confident. They want to stay with us, and the court is beneficial not only to the city, but the whole county as a whole. This particular court being where it is benefiting all Anderson County citizens. And Oak Ridge citizens are taxpayers. They're paying for that service also. So I'm confident, and I have good faith in the city staff and the city attorney and the city mayor and city council will work this out with the Anderson County government and will be set. I'm very confident of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner Creasy is correct, and as well as Commissioner Wandel, in saying that we've gotten more than 3 fire trucks. And when they give us a fire truck, it's not just bones on wheels. I mean, they're giving us all of the fittings for the nozzles and the gauges and the hose, and they've given us radios. I mean, so much for the volunteer fire departments. Commissioner Creasy is correct in saying that they offered us the building that's across the street from ORAU. It was inconvenient. When we went down there and looked at the building, it was an inconvenient location to move it to. And the Darcy building was ideal because not only was it our property to begin with, but we have other county facilities out there already, enough to make it one big piece of property for county purposes. I'll admit, I'm highly offended by saying, well, all we want is an MOU. Well, that's great. Then why are we getting a letter dated the 18th of September from Judge Layton saying, you know what? I think we ought to do away with that. I think you're right. No, it's wrong to be doing any kind of side work without sitting down and talking to the city of Oak Ridge. It's like Commissioner Creasy said, you've got thousands of taxpaying residents in this city that count on that facility. And it's wrong to pull it out from underneath their feet because of, oh, I just wanted an MOU. That's all I wanted. And then to turn around and threaten to take it away from them? No. The police department will lose more than half of its staff. I wouldn't be surprised if the city mayor says, well, you know what, that's fine. We'll go privatize our own EMS service, and look at other ways of cutting costs so that it benefits the city. And I'd hate to see any kind of animosity build to that extent. Just make a phone call and sit down and talk it out. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Any other discussion? If not, let's go to the board and vote.
Clarify what we're voting on, please, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner McCamey, do you want to restate your motion?
My motion was to go ahead and set a meeting sometime after the 12th, which would give them another month practically to appoint the members that they want to serve on the committee, and go ahead and set a meeting sometime after the 14th. Yeah, the 12th. They'll meet again on the 12th, and that would give them 2 months, to appoint their members. I don't think it would be a real problem for them to appoint 2 members from their city council. I don't understand why that they feel they need more time to do that, because they've had, over a month now. They were sent the letter on the 19th. So my motion was to go ahead and set a meeting with what we have already scheduled and do it after the 12th of October, and that gives them another month then to put it on their agenda and appoint their members or however they want to handle it.
We're voting. Okay. Motion fails. 4 yes, 10 no.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other old business?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't really need a motion or anything. I just wanted to bring up, back in October of 2017, I had approached Operations Committee about a task force for the fire truck resolution. And I just wanted to let you know that we're going to kind of dust that off. I don't think any official proposals were ever brought to commission. So I just wanted to kind of let you know if you see any activity, we're going to resurrect that task force and see if we can't come back with 2, possibly 3 ideas to present to Operations Committee in the coming months.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Val.
Mr. Chairman, also, Mayor, in case you didn't know, the last Fire Commission meeting, we also discussed that similar issue. I'm assuming maybe someone on the committee had contacted your office, but they would like to work in cooperation with that as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Denenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it will help, I will be more than happy to be in touch with Oak Ridge City officials tomorrow to see if there is a date or that they could give us a few dates that they would all be available for a meeting. And I will be more than happy to then be in touch with the members of the committee from the commission to see if we can't set a date to get together and discuss the issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Denenberg.
My pleasure.
Any other old business? New business?
Commissioner Chairman, this is Jay. Can I speak on an issue? I'm currently holding 6 honorary resolutions that, of course, we've not been having people in the commission chambers for county commission to honor these folks. These are personal honorariums. And I just want you to know I can hold them until we all start coming back after the COVID crisis, or we can start bringing a few in at a time. But again, I'm holding 6 right now that I would hope, and I think we all would love to see these people come in and accept their resolution and honor them in person. But I'll handle it any way you want me to handle it.
Are there some that are maybe more time sensitive than others that you feel like we need to get to in the next month or 2, or?
I don't think any of them are time sensitive. They're honoring individuals for their contribution to Anderson County is what they are.
Commissioner Creasy? Might be, oh, you there, Commissioner Creasy? Commissioner Val?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had my mic turned off there. I didn't know where to bring this up under old business or new business, but at last month's meeting, we passed a motion to, I think, for the law director to write a letter or someone to write a letter to the governor, hoping that he would extend his executive order to continue virtual meetings. And I think the next day he extended that before we wrote the letter. And I'm not sure where we wrote a letter to him or not, but I still feel that we should continue our virtual meetings. And I think a letter is still appropriate to the governor to let him know our desire for that option for our committees and those that want to continue meeting virtually. I know not all of us want to, but there are a few that, long as there's a risk to our family and ourselves, that wish to do that. So I'd like to, if we haven't wrote the letter, I'd like to bring that up again, ask that we continue with that, and ask him to continue with his executive order to allow us across the state to do that.
Jerry, if you make it, well, I was going to say, make it a motion, I'll second it.
I'll make that in a motion again.
Like we've got a motion for it by Commissioner Denenberg, seconded by Commissioner Scott. Any discussion? Let's vote.
I would just ask that the motion be to ask the governor just to have an open-ended time for the virtual meetings until such time as we can all come together safely.
Right.
Excellent.
And Jay, so with regards to that, I would suggest that you just hang tight unless it's time sensitive, rather than show them a picture online of the certificate, or the resolution, be able to hand it to them personally.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's proper. I enjoy having the people come in and having a county commissioner read the resolution and give them a plaque. And that's always the way it's been done in the past. And I know I've talked to many of them. They're very appreciative of that. Nobody's pushing for a resolution, but I just wanted to make you aware I'm holding 6 of them. Thank you.
Cool.
Commissioner Val.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we've kind of gotten sidetracked here a little bit. There is a motion on the floor in a second about the letter, but since Teresa went ahead and brought this back up, I was going to wait, but I'll go ahead and throw it in there now. Jay, the one that Commissioner Isabel and I have spoke to you about, we would like to go ahead and proceed with ours, please.
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to do that. Be ready next month for you.
Thanks, sir.
Any other discussion? Vote on Commissioner Denenberg's motion. Motion passes 12 yes, 3 no, 1 absent. Any other new business? All right. We have a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
Well done, Mr. Chairman.